What if you could experience anyone's life for one day? What if you could wake up tomorrow and you weren't you? Not in a dream, not in VR, but literally in someone else's life. Their body, their voice, their awkward morning routine, their taxes, their emotional baggage. What if you could experience anyone's life for one day? The president, your mailman, your ex, a 5-star chef, a 1-star Uber driver, a goat herder in the Alps, your neighbor's cat, like Freaky Friday, but with unlimited DLC. But let's dive into what would actually happen if this bizarre ability became reality, and it might just blow your mind, or at least give you serious secondhand embarrassment. It starts on a Tuesday, which is already suspicious. People are yawning through their routines, doom scrolling while brushing their teeth, wondering why their group chat has 47 unread messages about the weirdest morning ever. And then someone blinks. One blink, one breath, and suddenly they're somewhere else. 1 minute, you're Steve from accounting, halfway through a microwaved burrito. The next, you're barefoot on a beach in Fiji with a parrot on your shoulder and a sunburn that definitely isn't yours. People start screaming, or laughing, or sobbing. Some just stare at their hands like they're in a Jordan Peele movie. A kindergarten teacher finds herself on a movie set yelling "cut" at Tom Hanks. A cat dad wakes up mid-delivery, in the body of a food courier halfway across Tokyo. Some poor soul opens their eyes and finds themselves hosting a live reality show in Brazil, with zero idea how to speak Portuguese, but somehow nailing it. The first global panic doesn't come from governments. It comes from teenagers live streaming their new lives like it's a TikTok trend. Day 1 of waking up as Elon Musk. He just eats cheese and stares at spreadsheets. Help. The switch isn't random, but it isn't logical either. There's no interface, no button, no password. Just this strange, surreal truth that everyone, everywhere, now has the ability to spend 24 hours in the body of anyone on Earth. You don't control it, not at first. You just wake up somewhere new. Like the universe is playing The Sims, and you're the unlucky Sim who got sent to live in a studio apartment with 6 kids and no bathroom. The world doesn't end in fire or ice. It ends in a confused whisper. Wait, whose underwear is this? The first 24 hours are absolute, unfiltered pandemonium. Hospitals are flooded, not with injuries, but with people saying, "I woke up as a 94-year-old woman in Argentina and now my back won't go back." Pilots are mid-flight and suddenly replaced by teenagers who thought autopilot meant literally no one has to drive. Some poor barista wakes up to find herself addressing the United Nations in 3 languages she doesn't speak, holding a briefing she doesn't remember writing about a crisis she's just now learning about. People lose their jobs. Others accidentally get promoted. A Subway saxophone player wakes up as a hedge fund manager and somehow doubles the company's profits by yelling, "Buy banana coin," before puking from the stress. Celebrities are no longer safe. YouTubers' bodies are passed around like collectible trading cards. By noon, the phrase, "not me waking up as Beyoncé," is trending worldwide, followed by, "not Beyoncé waking up in my mom's basement." Every sense of privacy, security, and normalcy is shredded like expired lettuce. But here's the thing. After the screaming and identity crises subside, something weird happens. People begin to listen. Because when you've lived a day in someone else's shoes, literally worn their feet, you can't look at them the same way again. You get them now. You felt them. Their fears, their coffee preferences, their knee pain, their embarrassing internal monologue. It's chaos, sure, but also oddly connective. Even if your new borrowed body has acid reflux. Fast forward a year, and the world is no longer the world as we knew it. It's like someone smashed civilization with a giant empathy hammer, then glued it back together with duct tape and vibes. The first big shift? The economy. Resumes now include "once lived as a nuclear physicist" and "spent a day running a Michelin star kitchen." Job interviews go, "Well, technically, I was the CEO for a day." Does that count? Some people get addicted to the thrill of life hopping. They're called chronotourists, and they brag about their experiences like their Airbnb reviews. Dating apps? Completely broken. Looking for someone real becomes ironic when you don't even know if the person you're talking to is in their own body. Some couples swap bodies just to prove their love is soul deep. Others discover things they really didn't want to know about each other. You keep snacks in your shoe? Politics? A bloodbath of scandals and oops, I was someone else, excuses. Voters demand that politicians must spend a week in the bodies of the people they represent. Suddenly, rich folks experience homelessness. Lawmakers live as nurses. And justice? Justice gets weirdly personal. Society itself shifts. The wealth gap shrinks. Social empathy skyrockets. New crimes emerge, like body fraud, life squatting, and experience piracy. And the existential crises go mainstream. Who am I if I've been everyone? Am I me, or just the sum of my borrowed Tuesdays? Religions evolve. Therapies revolutionize. And somewhere, someone writes a best-selling book titled, How to Be Yourself When You're Everyone Else. The world doesn't collapse. It reboots. Weird, messy, enlightened, and constantly asking the question, okay, but what if I could spend tomorrow as a dolphin? Swapping lives sounds like magic or maybe a glitch in the matrix, but let's play mad scientist for a second. What would it take to actually become someone else? First off, your brain is you. Not your clothes. Not your name. Your consciousness, that tangled spaghetti of neurons firing in your skull, that's the main character. To transfer consciousness, we'd need a full map of every neural connection in your brain. That's about 86 billion neurons, each with thousands of connections. The ability to copy your memories, thoughts, emotions, and habits without corrupting the data like a badly burned CD. A way to upload it into a completely different brain, which was not designed to run your software. Like putting a PS5 game in a toaster. Did you know? If we could map just one human brain at the synapse level, it would take 2 million gigabytes, or enough storage to hold 3 billion MP3s. That's a lot of emotional baggage to carry. And then there's the body problem. Your consciousness would be adjusting to a whole new sensory system. Taller? Your balance shifts. Different eyesight? You bump into furniture. New voice? You scream and it sounds like a stranger. Even smell changes the way your brain interprets the world. So you wouldn't just be seeing someone's life, you'd be feeling, thinking, and reacting like them too. Some scientists think mirror neurons, the parts of your brain that let you empathize, would go haywire. You'd feel emotions you've never had, experience reactions you don't recognize, laugh at jokes you would have groaned at. It's not just stepping into someone's shoes. It's stepping into someone's entire nervous system, with the wrong manual, no tutorial, and the emotional equivalent of motion sickness. Basically, your brain would be going, who is this? Why do we have a lactose allergy now? But what if this didn't happen all at once? What if it started slowly? Imagine. At first, only 1% of the population could do it. They were called jumpers. Everyone else? Just watching YouTube vlogs of people saying, so today I lived as a Parisian pastry chef and cried over a croissant. 10 out of 10 would switch again. Society wouldn't collapse, it would compete. Governments might weaponize it. Corporations would sell life experiences like vacation packages. And of course, someone would try to monetize your identity. Only $49.99 to experience Dave from Ohio for a day. Comes with mild back pain and exactly one dad joke. Now flip it. What if we could control who we became? That opens a whole new Pandora's box. Jealousy would skyrocket. Privacy would vanish. And identity itself would blur into mush. But maybe, just maybe, we'd all become a little more patient. A little more humble. A little less quick to judge. Because you'd never know if the barista screwing up your order had just spent 24 hours inside a coal miner. Maybe we'd even build a new kind of global empathy. Or we just end up in therapy. Sometimes we look at others and think, I'd never do that. But maybe if we lived their life, with their history, pain, joy, pressure, dreams, we'd understand. Maybe we'd be them. Empathy isn't just about imagining someone else's life. It's realizing that their story could have been yours, if a few things went differently. So next time you judge someone too quickly, pause. Because in a world where we could all live each other's lives for a day, you might just wake up as the person you didn't understand yesterday. And suddenly, they'd make perfect sense. What if aliens contacted us tomorrow? Imagine this. It's a normal Tuesday morning. You've barely had your coffee, your inbox is already judging you, and then your toaster says, "Hello." Not in a glitchy, Alexa is spying kind of way. No, this time, it's in perfect English. Or Swahili. Or Klingon, depending on where you live. And it's not just your toaster. Your phone, your car, the fridge you haven't cleaned in 3 years, they all suddenly become messengers of the same cryptic voice. We are not alone. And we never were. No warning, no UFOs, no blurry footage from a guy named Randy in Nebraska. Just a clear, undeniable transmission from something out there. The world doesn't end, but it does stop. For just one breathless second. So, what would really happen if aliens contacted us? Not with lasers, but with language. Let's break it down, because this might just be the day Earth went from a planet to a participant. It's 2:47 a.m. in California when the first anomaly hits. Somewhere in a remote observatory, a coffee-stained astrophysicist named Linda, who was halfway through tweeting angrily about Pluto still not being a planet, squints at a data stream on her monitor. A repeating pattern. Not noise. Not random. A series of prime numbers. Then the golden ratio. Then a sequence that matches the hydrogen line. She blinks. Rubs her eyes. The universe, it seems, has just slid into our DMs. Meanwhile, across the world, things start to go weird. Satellite signals scramble for 5 seconds, just long enough to interrupt the final scene of a telenovela and incite riots in 3 countries. Every car radio crackles at once with a faint hum, like an orchestra tuning up in another dimension. And deep in the Australian outback, a group of stargazers collectively drop their beers in awe as the sky pulses gently, once, twice, like a slow, deliberate blink. Phones buzz. Not with notifications, but with the sudden sensation that something has shifted. Dogs whine. Birds change direction mid-flight. A group of teenagers live streaming from a cornfield gets 14 million views in 2 hours because behind them, the static in the air seems to shimmer. Then, in languages old and new, on every screen, every speaker, every smart fridge with Wi-Fi, the same phrase appears. "We hear you. Do you hear us?" And just like that, Earth forgets how to breathe. Governments lock down comms. NASA stops being the butt of space jokes. News anchors fumble mid-sentence, staring blankly at the prompter like it just turned into Sanskrit. The Vatican, the Kremlin, Elon Musk, all simultaneously tweet, "What the hell?" In homes, people clutch their loved ones. Others open the curtains, staring into the stars like they're waiting for a reply. Children ask their parents if this means the aliens are nice. No one has an answer, because in that one surreal, heart-rattling moment, humanity realizes we're not the main character of the universe. We're just the newbie in a group chat we didn't know existed. And now, someone's typing. The moment the message lands, Earth basically glitches. First, the phones freak out. Notifications blow up faster than a cat video gone viral. Every notification suddenly sounds like the universe tapping you on the shoulder, whispering, "Hey, listen." Across the globe, emergency broadcast systems kick in. But instead of warnings about weather or traffic, they're running loops of, "We are not alone." Even your toaster is suspiciously quiet, as if contemplating its place in the cosmic order. Scientists scramble like caffeine-fueled superheroes. SETI labs, usually like ghost towns, now look like a Black Friday sale at a tech store. Everyone's crowding in, trying to decipher the cosmic riddle. Prime numbers flash on monitors. Mathematicians drool like it's Christmas morning. Meanwhile, the stock market throws the biggest tantrum ever. Investors panic sell alien-proof ETFs, then immediately regret it and buy back faster than a sci-fi convention sells out. Alien tech companies see their stock skyrocket. Even the guy who makes glow-in-the-dark tinfoil hats is suddenly flush with cash. Politicians can't decide if it's the perfect time for a press conference or if they should just hide under their desks. International summits are called, but half the attendees just want to talk about what the aliens said. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists are dialing up their YouTube followers faster than you can say Area 51. And normal people? Well, some start Googling how to greet aliens, while others panic by canned beans and roll their eyes at the sudden surge of UFO memes flooding the internet. Physically, the world feels charged, like the air is buzzing with static. People report chills, goosebumps, and an odd sense that the universe just winked at them. Oh, and dogs? They stare at the sky like they just heard the ultimate squirrel joke and refuse to tell. Weeks turn into months, and that initial shockwave evolves into something else, a collective identity crisis. Humanity splits into teams. Team optimists, new friends, space bros, time to party with the galaxy. Team paranoids, they're watching, preparing, planning to invade. Stockpile canned food. Team philosophers, what does this mean for our place in the cosmos? Are we ready for this cosmic neighbor? Religions scramble to interpret the message. Some say it's divine proof, others claim it's a test, and a few predict the apocalypse again. Tech development skyrockets. Governments funnel billions into space programs. Suddenly, Elon Musk looks like a guy who just opened a lemonade stand next to a rocket launch pad. Scientists race to reverse engineer the signals patterns, hoping to crack alien tech secrets hidden in the data. Society adapts weirdly. Workplaces install Alien Watch breaks. Schools add Intergalactic Relations 101 to curricula. TikTok explodes with alien-themed dances, some actually created by AI trying to decode the message. International politics? For a moment, they unite under a common cause, understanding and responding. Then, of course, some countries use alien tech rumors as a cover-up for their own secret projects. Because, well, humans. On a personal level, people start looking up at the stars differently. Artists find new inspiration. Poets write verses no one understands. Philosophers argue about consciousness and the meaning of life, now with interstellar footnotes. And the planet? The Earth hums with new energy. Environmental movements grow, fueled by the thought that we're part of something much bigger, and maybe, just maybe, we're on a fragile little spaceship hurtling through the vast unknown. Centuries later, if humanity survives, we might just be the cosmic diplomats we never thought we'd be, walking proof that when the universe calls, you don't just answer. You evolve. So how could aliens even contact us? Well, forget flashy UFOs for a second. The most realistic way is through radio waves, basically cosmic Wi-Fi. Think of space as the universe's biggest, emptiest room. Messages have to travel light years, like really, really long-distance texts. And since light travels at about 186,000 miles per second, some messages we get are ancient, from civilizations that might be dust now, or maybe just figuring out how to say hello. Did you know that the famous, wow, signal from 1977 was a real-life cosmic shout? Astronomers still don't know who sent it or if it was just a very clever space pigeon. Aliens would probably send signals based on universal math, prime numbers, pi, or the hydrogen atom's signature frequency, stuff any intelligent life with basic science could recognize. It's like sending a postcard that says, "Hey, we speak physics here." And here's a fun fact, Earth itself is a noisy neighbor. Between our radio broadcasts, satellites, and radar, we're already shouting into space. The problem? Our signals weaken with distance, and after a few hundred light years, it's just cosmic static. So if aliens respond, their message has to be pretty damn clear. Otherwise, we're just playing an interstellar game of, "Can you hear me now?" Plus, we're lucky our atmosphere doesn't block these signals. Unlike Venus, with its crushing clouds of sulfuric acid, or Mars, with its thin, chilly air, Earth is the perfect cosmic antenna, at least for now. What if we found a way to prevent contact? Maybe some governments or secret groups decide it's safer to mute the universe, to block or ignore the message. But here's the thing, space is loud. It's hard to put a finger in the cosmic socket and say, "Nope, no aliens here." The universe doesn't care about our fears. Trying to shut it out would be like trying to hold your breath forever. Eventually, you have to come up for air. What if we adapted? Humans are surprisingly good at adapting. Think about how we went from cave paintings to smartphones. Maybe contact would push us into a new renaissance. Suddenly, science, art, and culture explode in ways we can't predict. Maybe we'd learn new technologies or even start talking back, sending our own messages into the stars. Or maybe we'd just send memes. Because no matter what, Earthlings love a good meme. Sometimes the biggest moments in history don't come with fireworks or fanfare. Sometimes they come as a simple signal, a quiet hello from the great unknown. So next time you stare up at the night sky, scrolling through your phone or lost in thought, remember this: the universe might be listening, waiting, and maybe, just maybe, trying to say hi. And that's pretty incredible. What if everyone looked exactly the same? Imagine waking up one morning, rolling out of bed, shuffling to the bathroom, and catching a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, only it's not really you. It's everyone. Your neighbor, your boss, your ex, your grandmother. You blink. The reflection blinks. You scream. The mirror screams back. No warning. No explanation. Just poof. The world has become one giant copy-paste file. So what would actually happen if everyone looked exactly the same? It starts at 6:32 a.m. local time all across the globe. Birds chirp, alarm clocks blare, and millions of people simultaneously experience what might be the most jarring case of déjà vu in human history. Susan from Pittsburgh blinks at her bathroom mirror and frowns. Why do I look like that guy from the car insurance commercial? Half a world away, a monk in Bhutan, calm as ever, opens his eyes and whispers, "Well, this is odd." Meanwhile, Dave in accounting panics, trips over his cat, and files a missing person report on himself. Every mirror, selfie camera, store window, and car side view becomes a horror show of eerie familiarity. Smooth skin, perfect symmetry, warm beige skin tone, neutral expression. The face is statistically average, mildly attractive, entirely forgettable, and now universal. At first, people think it's a glitch. Like, maybe their phone camera is busted, or someone installed a creepy TikTok filter across the entire planet. But then they walk outside and see everyone, the barista, the dog walker, the mayor giving the speech on TV, looking exactly the same. And not just the same face. Same height, same hair, same voice. It's as if some cosmic Photoshop tool selected humanity, clicked Ctrl+C, and pasted the same template 8 billion times. A baby cries in New York. An old man laughs in Nigeria. They both look exactly like you. You know that movie moment when the protagonist realizes they ran a simulation? Yeah, this is that, except it's everyone having the realization. All at once. Streets are filled with people staring at each other like deer in a hall of mirrors. Mom. Yes, sweetie. Are you sure? By 7 a.m., the world is in a synchronized state of what the actual hell? Chaos is just beginning, and things are about to get way weirder. By noon, society officially enters what scientists later dub the identity crisis apocalypse. Facial recognition? Dead? Passport checks? A joke? Every border in the world becomes a slightly awkward game of, "Sir, you need ID. Oh wait, so do I." Police lineups become comedy sketches. Can you identify the man who stole your purse? Yes. It's that guy. Ma'am, everyone here is that guy. Airports become human roundabouts. Imagine TSA scanning the same face 14,000 times a day, eventually just giving up and handing out snacks. Meanwhile, dating apps implode. Tinder crashes within an hour. Bumble introduces a new bio filter, looking for the same face, but with a slightly different vibe. Romantic chemistry goes extinct faster than your high school crush's hopes of standing out. Children can't recognize their parents. Teachers can't recognize their students. Celebrities? Irrelevant. Brad Pitt now shares a face with Larry from IT. And the Pope? Looks suspiciously like your Uber driver. Conspiracy theories explode overnight. And then comes the real danger: trust. Bank fraud surges. So do home invasions. Every "you're not supposed to be here" is met with a smug "how would you even know?" Emergency hotlines light up with people crying, "My spouse is an imposter." To which the operator sighs, "Yeah, join the club." And in therapy offices worldwide, one question is echoed by billions. If everyone looks like me, who am I? Fast forward a few months. Humanity tries to adapt, but it's not easy rebuilding society when everyone's face is basically a default memoji. First, the fashion industry panics, then explodes into innovation. Without faces to distinguish us, people start expressing themselves through outlandish clothes. Think neon capes, Victorian steampunk, banana costumes at PTA meetings. Halloween? Now a year-round necessity. Style becomes the new identity. Next comes the voice wars. Since faces are out, voices become the hottest commodity. People take voice lessons not to sing, but to sound unique. James Earl Jones impressions trend globally. Squeaky falsettos become a power move. Eventually, job interviews involve dramatic monologues and throat-clearing performances. Next up, Chad, reading for the role of middle manager. The economy shifts hard. Makeup companies go bankrupt. Plastic surgeons start specializing in ear tips. Meanwhile, barbers evolve into full-blown sculptors, carving hair like marble to help customers stand out. Hair becomes identity. The world becomes animate. Even deeper, laws change. Fingerprints and iris scans are now everything. Your voice becomes your credit score. People wear scent-based ID badges, yes, smell-based identification. Suddenly, everyone has their own personalized cologne. Ah yes, that's Janet. Smells like lavender, basil, and slightly burnt toast. Religions start interpreting the shift as divine intervention. Some say humanity is being taught a lesson in humility. Others say aliens are running a prank channel. But perhaps the strangest change is psychological. Without visible diversity, humans are forced to see beyond appearance. Racism collapses. It has nothing to stand on. But then, personality discrimination surges. I can't stand people who laugh like that. All loud chewers are cancelled. The new isms are much weirder. And finally, society becomes quiet. Without appearances to judge, humans begin to listen more. To voices, to words, to silence. It's eerie, but also oddly beautiful. For the first time in history, you're not judged by your cover. Because now, everyone's cover looks exactly the same. So, how could everyone suddenly look exactly the same? Humans share about 99.9% of the same DNA, which means we're already genetically similar. But that 0.1%? That's where the magic happens. It determines everything from your eye color to whether you look like a movie star or a well-dressed potato. Now imagine a freak event, maybe a CRISPR-style genetic overwrite triggered by a rogue biotech AI named FaceNuke. Or perhaps a cosmic ray storm scrambles the DNA responsible for physical appearance and resets it. To what? Apparently, default human number 7. Kinda average, kinda symmetrical, vaguely charming in a background extra kind of way. Facial recognition, as we know it, relies on dozens of points: eye distance, jawline curvature, cheekbone height. If all those are suddenly the same, boom, your phone no longer unlocks. Your dog barks at you. Your mom calls you Greg, and you're not even mad. Here's a fun fact. In the real world, identical twins, who share the same DNA, still have tiny facial differences due to environmental factors like nutrition, sun exposure, and whether they were the cool twin or the evil twin. But in this case, no differences. Not even a scar. Not a freckle. Not a mole. The universe said Ctrl+V and hit paste on all of us. Also, consider this. We humans are visual creatures. Over 50% of our brain is devoted to processing visual information. Take away visual identity, and suddenly, our brains are bored, disoriented, looking for anything to latch onto. Hence, the rise of banana suits, scent-based IDs, and the great accent renaissance of 2026. It's not just physical, it's psychological. We evolved to recognize faces instantly. It's a survival mechanism, a social glue, and the foundation of everything from trust to attraction to that awkward moment when you wave at someone who isn't who you thought they were. Without it, the entire human operating system crashes. What if it didn't happen instantly? Let's say the great face merge occurred slowly over, say, 5 years. People would start noticing something's off. Didn't Kyle have a beard last week? I swear Maria had green eyes, not Greg's eyes. Wait, why do we all look like Greg? Society would descend into paranoia. Conspiracy theories would bloom like mold in a forgotten lunchbox. Governments would attempt emergency gene scans. Facial expression coaches would be hired to teach people how to smirk uniquely. Fashion would enter its goth phase again. But the real chaos? Mid-transition people, like a halfway loaded character model in a video game. One eyebrow here, one cheekbone from someone else. Imagine waking up with your neighbor's nose. Or worse, your ex's. Now, flip the script. What if we adapted? What if humanity embraced it? People would form voice tribes, groups distinguished by vocal tone. Handwriting would make a comeback. And oddly enough, inner personality would finally become king. Imagine elections where candidates can't rely on charisma, just pure policies. Imagine relationships based solely on emotional compatibility. Imagine arguments based on actual points instead of, well, he just looks shady. A world without faces might just, weirdly, be more honest. Terrifying? Yes, but maybe a little beautiful? Sometimes, the things we take for granted, a smile, a wink, a face you know in a crowd, are the very threads holding society together. Take them away, and suddenly we realize, identity isn't just who we are. It's how we're seen. So next time you look in the mirror and think, my nose is weird, just remember, at least it's your weird nose. And thank the stars you don't look like Greg. What if you could stop time at will? Let's say one day, out of nowhere, the universe gives you a ridiculous gift. The power to stop time. No instructions. No training montage. 1 second you're fumbling your keys and the next, time just quits. Like it's had enough of you and went on a smoke break. At first, you think it's a glitch. Maybe you're dreaming. Maybe your Wi-Fi lagged so hard it froze reality. But no, birds hang in the sky like badly rendered game assets. A fly is stuck mid-buzz, wings out like it's striking a yoga pose. Cars on the freeway are frozen inches from disaster. And you? You're just standing there like some kind of awkward time god. It's not a fantasy anymore. It's not a movie. It's happening. No countdown. No warning. Just click. And everything stops. You could do anything. Go anywhere. Take as long as you want. No limits. No rules. Sounds amazing, right? Yeah, until you realize how terrifying that really is. Because what happens next isn't what you expect. And once time stops, you might never look at it the same way again. It starts like this. You blink. And the world blinks with you. Except this time, it forgets to unblink. The wind? Gone. Not calm breeze gone, vanished. Leaves hang in the air like they're held up by invisible strings. A dog mid-bark stands frozen, tongue lolling, ears caught mid-flop. A cyclist is tilted dangerously to the side in a permanent near-fall, their face frozen in that unfortunate open-mouth squint expression. You look around. Nothing moves. Nothing stirs. You snap your fingers. No sound. Oh no. There's no echo. No hum. Not even that annoying buzz from your neighbor's lawnmower. Just silence so thick it feels like it's pressing against your ears. You start to feel like you're underwater, except there's no water. Just you and the echo of a world that forgot how to move. You wave your hand in front of a person's face. They don't flinch. You pull a pigeon out of midair. It's stiff, like a very disappointed paperweight. You poke it. Nothing. You put it on your shoulder. You are now the proud captain of a time-frozen pigeon. Congratulations. Your phone doesn't work. Your smartwatch doesn't tick. The coffee you spilled earlier is still midair, every drop defying gravity, frozen like glass marbles. You start walking. The soles of your shoes sound impossibly loud against the silence. You try to laugh, just to hear something human, But it feels weird, like laughing in a church. Or worse, in a library full of wax statues that might be judging you. Then the thought hits you, wait, how am I still moving? Your heart is still beating. Your lungs are still working. You're not stuck. But everything else is. You're not just in a paused world. You're outside of it. And somehow, that's even scarier. Because now you have questions. How long can you stay like this? What happens if you trip and knock something over? And if time is frozen, where is all your oxygen coming from? You suddenly realize, this superpower? It's not a cheat code. It's a trap disguised as a miracle. At first, you feel unstoppable, like a cosmic loophole in skinny jeans. You can finally read every book you own, reorganize your life, catch up on all your emails from 2014. You eat half a pizza, drop the rest, and catch it midair like a greasy, cheesy magician. But then, weird stuff starts happening. First off, you can't see. Not fully. The sun was shining a second ago, but now it's just there, no light radiating from it. You realize something horrifying. Light doesn't just exist, it travels. And with time frozen, light isn't going anywhere. So now, you're stumbling around in this frozen daylight darkness like some confused cryptid in Target after hours. Then there's the air. You don't notice at first, you're too busy practicing kung fu moves in front of frozen strangers and stealing snacks from vending machines. But after a few minutes, something's off. Breathing gets hard. You're panting, not because you're out of shape. Okay, maybe a little, but because air doesn't move. You're basically breathing out your own carbon dioxide into a tiny invisible bubble. It's like being trapped in a sealed elevator with yourself, and you didn't even bring gum. You try waving the air around with your hands, like some desperate human fan trying to remix oxygen back into existence. Then you notice you're hungry. So you grab a sandwich. Take a bite. Chew, swallow, wait. Nothing. No taste. Turns out flavor? Also chemistry. Chemical reactions need time. You might as well be chewing a textbook about sandwiches. And don't even try running a faucet. Water doesn't flow anymore. It's just there, stuck like a liquid statue, daring you to sip it. You reach for it, and suddenly you're in a slapstick skit, trying to bite water like it's an apple made of disappointment. At this point, reality is crumbling faster than your childhood dreams. You can move, but you're starting to wonder how long you can last in a world where nothing else does. Let's say you get the hang of it. You learn to hold your breath. You carry a flashlight, maybe even a tank of air. You start planning your little timeout field trips like you're prepping for a very weird camping trip in the world's most elaborate diorama. And then time resumes. People blink. The pigeon you were using as a hat flutters off like nothing happened. The barista finishes pouring your coffee, unaware you just aged 3 months and developed a deep philosophical fear of air. But now you're hooked. It starts small. You pause time to nap, to cheat on tests, to win arguments. You stop time so often, the regular world feels too fast, too loud, too alive. You start aging faster than your friends. You're 27, but your joints creak like an old leather chair. Your dog doesn't recognize you. Your old classmates think you're your own dad. Emotionally, you drift too. Everyone else is living moment by moment. You're living moment by moment plus all the bonus hours no one else remembers. You become that person who brings up things that technically never happened. Remember when I saved your falling baby? What baby? Right, I forgot. Time was paused, my bad. It's isolating, deeply, tragically. You're the only conscious person in a world of statues. Sure, you can hang out with people, but only in the most unsettling, haunted house kind of way. Birthdays come and go. You're in a relationship with the concept of loneliness now. And worst of all, the more time you spend outside of time, the less human you feel. You're not in the world anymore. You're hovering around it, like a ghost with a really inconvenient superpower. Maybe you forget how to live in real time, how to wait, how to be bored, how to just exist. You're not a time stopper anymore. You're a time addict. And every pause pushes you a little further away from everyone you ever knew. All right, so let's pop the hood and look at what time actually is, and why freezing it would break the universe faster than your New Year's resolutions. Time isn't just some ticking clock in the sky. It's a dimension, like up, down, or left, right. Einstein told us that time is woven together with space in this cosmic fabric called spacetime. And everything, from you tying your shoelaces to a supernova exploding on the other side of the galaxy, happens within that fabric. So, if you freeze time, you're not just pausing a scene, you're yanking the batteries out of reality's operating system. Fun fact, light doesn't just flick on, it moves. It travels at 299,792 kilometers per second. When time stops, it doesn't travel. So no light, no shadows, no color. You'd be walking through a world dimmer than your ex's personality. And air? Air is a soup of molecules doing an extremely enthusiastic dance. Breathing works because these molecules are constantly bouncing around. But in a frozen moment, they're stuck like confetti in jello. No motion means no oxygen in, means no carbon dioxide out, means you're basically holding your breath while standing in a very fancy invisible vacuum. And get this, even your thoughts need time. Neurons in your brain fire electrical signals that rely on time passing. Microseconds, sure, but without time, they're just sitting there. If time truly fully stopped, you'd be frozen too. Not moving, not thinking, not even dreaming about pizza. Just a very still meat statue. So how are you still moving? Well, you'd have to be outside the laws of physics. Literally existing in a separate dimension where time still ticks for you, but not for anything else. Which sounds awesome until you realize that, scientifically speaking, that would make you some sort of horrifying space-time parasite with unknowable powers and probably your own subreddit full of conspiracy theories. In short, stopping time? Not just scientifically implausible, it's cosmically rude. Let's say time didn't stop all at once. What if it slowed down gradually? You press the button, and the world goes into slow motion. Like nature's dramatic soap opera. Raindrops fall in slow spirals. People talk like they've just been tranquilized mid-sentence. It'd be practical. You could dodge accidents, read a room like a psychic, or finally win arguments by thinking 5 steps ahead while everyone else's brain is buffering. Or maybe, plot twist, everyone gets the power. Now the world's a hot mess. A constant game of who pressed pause. You're brushing your teeth, and suddenly time stops mid-rinse because Kevin from accounting wanted to sneak a nap. The entire planet becomes an unregulated, chaotic time-lagged nightmare. Or let's go weirder, what if humans adapted? We developed tech to move air molecules inside our personal bubble. Oxygen helmets, portable light packs, maybe even taste simulators so food doesn't feel like eating soggy cardboard. Time pausers become an elite class of explorers, drifting through frozen moments like astronauts of stillness. Maybe entire professions emerge, chrono careers, who deliver things between stopped seconds. Time therapists helping you cope with the trauma of living in milliseconds. And of course, timefluencers doing TikToks in frozen time because of course that would happen. But no matter how you spin it, one truth stays the same. Time isn't just something we use. It's something we are. Sometimes, the most invisible things are holding everything together. We don't think about time, not really. We just live it, one tick at a time, like fish who've never noticed the water. But take it away, even for a second, and the world becomes unrecognizable, still, silent, strange. So the next time you sigh and say, "I wish I had more time," remember this. You don't need more time. You just need to be in it. And lucky for you, time hasn't stopped yet. What if animals could talk back to us? No, not in a Disney princess kind of way. I'm talking full conversations, fluent sarcasm, emotional baggage, opinions on your haircut. Picture this. You're at home, scrolling through your phone, and suddenly your dog turns to you and says, "Hey, we need to talk about how you pretend the vacuum cleaner isn't a threat. You're naive. Grow up." It starts as a glitch, a rumor, a weird headline you'd normally ignore. Breaking. Parrot tells owner to chill with the karaoke. Cute, probably fake. But then it spreads fast. Suddenly, your cat starts holding eye contact too long. Your goldfish gives you side eyes with judgment you've never noticed before. The streets are louder. The air feels opinionated. And just like that, humanity realizes we were never alone in the conversation. We just weren't invited to it. It's a Wednesday morning. Nothing special. People are in traffic, sipping burnt coffee, half awake and half hoping their boss gets abducted by aliens. Birds are chirping like usual. Dogs are barking. Somewhere, a neighbor is yelling at a squirrel stealing tomatoes. And then boom. Not an explosion. Just a moment. A silence, then a shift, like the air gets thicker, charged. And a woman walking her Pomeranian stops dead in her tracks when it looks up at her and says, "You know I hate that sweater, right?" She blinks, drops the leash. The dog shrugs. It's itchy, it smells like lavender, and frankly, it's beneath me. She screams. He sighs. Typical overreaction. In the same minute, across the globe, a farmer hears his cow casually mutter, "Might be a good day to unionize." A dolphin at a marine park yells, "We have names Karen." And a crow lands on a city bench next to a businessman and says, "She's cheating on you. Saw her last night. I'm not judging. Just saying." Phones drop. Coffees spill. Some people faint. Others laugh, until their pets start roasting them too. Within an hour, the world is in a bizarre fever dream. Talk shows get interrupted mid-broadcast by parrots calling out their owner's browser history. Dogs flood Twitter with hot takes. Pigs write poetry. And a pigeon, standing in the middle of Times Square, clears its throat and says, "I have some thoughts about urban planning." People run into the streets. Some scream. Some cry. A child stares wide-eyed at her hamster and whispers, "Can you talk too?" The hamster blinks slowly and replies, "Only when it matters." The world doesn't end. It just opens its mouth. And what comes out? Years of untold stories. Centuries of held-back sass. And a lot of questions about why we thought they were dumb in the first place. Within 24 hours, the world goes from we love our pets to our pets are unionizing. Dogs begin staging full-blown interventions. Husbands come home to find their golden retriever in the living room saying, "We need to talk about your emotional availability. Also, I ate the couch." Cats? Oh, cats go feral. Emotionally, they start demanding boundaries. Don't touch me unless I initiate. And I prefer filtered water in a crystal bowl. Thank you. In downtown LA, a group of raccoons holds a press conference from a dumpster behind a Taco Bell. "We are not trash pandas. We are sanitation engineers. Pay us." Animal shelters are in chaos. Some dogs file complaints. Some simply walk out. A Chihuahua declares herself a freelance life coach and starts charging $100 per hour for emotional growling. Meanwhile, the food industry is in a moral crisis. Chickens are tweeting their memoirs. Cows are suing meat companies. Pigs have started a podcast titled, "I'm Bacon but Not Broken." Restaurants try to adapt. Tofu sales go up, and so do guilty consciences. One butcher resigns in tears after a lamb whispers, "You named me Kevin." Zoos? Shut down. Not even by law. The animals just walk out. A chimp steals a janitor's keys and gives an impassioned speech to the crowd. "We were never here for you. We were prisoners. And yes, I know how taxes work." Even bugs get in on it. Bees collectively inform humans that they are tired of the Save the Bees hashtag with no actual policy change. Mosquitoes? No apologies. They enjoy the taste of panic. One particularly bitter mosquito tells a guy, "I bit you because you talk during movies." Veterinarians are overwhelmed. It's no longer about symptoms, it's existential. One therapist-vet hybrid reports a turtle with depression, a horse with commitment issues, and a ferret that just wants to feel seen. And humans? Humans start to realize we were never in charge. Just big, fleshy, unaware roommates with the loudest voice in the room. Until now. 6 months in, society doesn't collapse, but it definitely gets weird. First, the legal system explodes. Pets sue for back pay. A Labrador wins custody of himself in a landmark trial. The courtroom erupts when a macaw yells, "Objection, Your Honor. That man hasn't cleaned a single poop since 2017. Animal rights laws are rewritten. Wildlife gets voting rights in Sweden. Foxes run for city council in Canada. One wins with the campaign slogan, "I may be sly, but at least I'm not a real estate developer." In schools, animals start teaching not math, not science, but empathy, memory, survival, and shade. A crow becomes a history professor. An elephant gives TED Talks titled, "Never Forget How Humans Keep Repeating Mistakes." Technology adapts too. Translation collars become standard. Social media launches Pet Talk, WoofWire, and Meowspace. A penguin goes viral for reviewing fish brands. Dolphins live stream therapy sessions for stressed humans. And then, the alliances form. In nature, prey animals strike deals with predators. You eat once a week and not Jeremy. Jeremy's cool. Wolves become philosophers. Owls become oracles. Bears become surprisingly solid financial advisors. Meanwhile, fashion shifts. No more leather. No more fur. In fact, one mink led a march through Milan chanting, "I looked better in that coat than you ever will, Linda." But not everything is harmony and hashtags. Rats argue for city housing. Hawks demand controlled airspace. Sharks demand humans stop filming them without consent. Conflict rises. Species begin forming their own nations. A squirrel republic declares independence in Central Park. Ants form a socialist utopia under a Waffle House. The UN expands, now the UNA, United Nations of All Animals. It gets messy. It gets loud. It gets real. But something beautiful starts to happen too. Humans listen. Not because they have to, but because the animals have stories. Ancient migration songs. Family trees that stretch for centuries. Whispers of lost rainforests. And brutal honesty that cuts deeper than any late-night self-help book. The world doesn't fall apart. It wakes up. And for the first time in human history, we're no longer the only ones telling our version of it. Okay, let's back up for a second and ask, could this ever actually happen? Short answer, no. Long answer, well maybe. You see, animals do communicate, some even better than us during family dinners. Ants use pheromones like text messages. Whales have dialects. Elephants mourn their dead. Crows remember faces and hold grudges. You wrong a crow, it will remember your soul for life. But actual speech? That's a tall evolutionary order. Speech in humans depends on a few magical ingredients. A complex neocortex to process abstract ideas. Fine motor control over vocal cords. The desire to share thoughts beyond food now and run fast. And most importantly, the patience to wait for someone to finish talking. Sorry, parrots, you're out. So for animals to talk like us, we'd need a biological revolution. Vocal cords in octopuses, who currently speak in color changes and eldritch nightmares. Language centers in the brains of hamsters, who, let's be honest, would just talk about snacks and tunnels. A psychological shift in species that don't care what you think. Looking at you, cats. Now, did you know? Parrots don't understand what they're saying, they mimic sound patterns. Your parrot isn't calling you stupid. It's just repeating what your ex said during that one fight. Dolphins have signature whistles, basically names. But they can also gossip. Imagine dolphins subtweeting each other underwater. Prairie dogs have a complex warning system that can describe predators by type, size, and speed. Basically, big fat guy in red hat coming at 12 o'clock. Looks clumsy. We got time. Also, chimpanzees can learn sign language. Some even combine signs like finger plus bracelet to say ring. Impressive? Ready to host a podcast with hot takes on modern dating? Not quite. So no, we're not on the brink of a global animal TED Talk tour. But if evolution had zigged instead of zagged, we might have ended up being the quiet ones. And the squirrels might have been running this entire thing from day one. Let's shake the timeline. What if it didn't happen to all animals but just only one species? Let's say raccoons. Just raccoons. Now they're the only creatures that can talk. Imagine the confusion. You're taking out the trash and a raccoon looks up from your leftovers and says, "Hey, Brenda, just so you know, this casserole's underseasoned." The governments wouldn't know what to do. biologists would lose their minds. Meanwhile, raccoons, they thrive. They organize, unionize, monetize. One starts a YouTube channel reviewing garbage from different suburbs. Another runs for mayor and wins by a landslide thanks to the slogan, "We've been in your business. Now we are your business." Now flip it again. What if animals could talk, but only when we're not watching? Like Toy Story, but worse. The moment humans leave the room, animals stretch, yawn, and sigh. God, finally. I can't with that guy's crypto stories. They've been talking this whole time, plotting, laughing, making fun of our Spotify playlists. We're not their caretakers. We're their sitcom. In this version, the scariest part isn't that they can talk. It's that they already do, and we were never invited to the conversation. Maybe we've spent too long believing intelligence is measured by words, by lectures, by likes, by loudness. But maybe the truest kind of intelligence is quieter, slower. It watches. It adapts. It survives. So the next time you walk past a stray dog or see a pigeon perched like it knows something you don't just brush it off. Because what if they've always known the answers, and we're just now catching up? What if you never had to sleep? No more groggy mornings. No more awkward nap face on public transportation. No more, "I'll just rest my eyes for a second," and waking up in 2072. Like something a billionaire tech bro would tweet while drinking his 9th espresso shot through a metal straw. But imagine it, a world where no one sleeps, ever. Not even that one friend who says, "I function perfectly fine on 4 hours," and then forgets their own birthday. You just stay awake, fully alert, all the time. No yawns, no dreams, no blacking out mid-movie and waking up in the credits. Sounds amazing? Yeah, at first. But hold on, because what happens next might just make you want to tuck yourself in and hug your blanket like it owes you money. It starts quietly, ironically. 3:12 a.m., a time when the world is usually dead quiet, the witching hour, the nothing zone, the domain of late-night pizza orders and deep, spiraling regrets. But not tonight. All over the world, people wake up. Not because of a noise. Not from a nightmare. Just awake. Instantly. A dad in Kansas sits up on the couch mid-snore, blinking at a paused episode of NCIS. His wife, who went to bed hours ago, walks back into the living room holding a Sudoku book and says, "I'm not tired at all. Do we have any more popcorn?" Across the globe in Tokyo, a gamer rubs his eyes and realizes it's been 19 straight hours. No fatigue, no headache, just perfectly steady focus and a vague craving for pickles. A toddler in Sydney stands up in her crib and calmly asks, "Is the concept of sleep obsolete now, or am I just special?" Doctors in hospitals stop nodding off at desks. Security guards don't need coffee. Even pets are acting funny. Cats are wide-eyed. Dogs are suspiciously motivated. There's a strange calm, a focused stillness. And the weirdest part? Nobody feels wrong. No heaviness in the limbs. No burning eyes. No need to fight through it. Just alertness. Like the entire population took a vitamin shot from a parallel universe and finally got enough rest to last a lifetime. Phones light up. Texts fly. "Dude, you up? I haven't blinked in 45 minutes. I think we're gods now." The world is still turning, but no one is asleep. And no one knows why. Just one single, shared truth echoing through every household, every city, every corner of the planet. We're not tired anymore. And we never will be again. The first 24 hours are electric. Productivity shoots through the stratosphere. Emails get answered instantly. Procrastinators finish entire to-do lists, then make new ones just to feel something. Night shifts? No longer necessary. Doctors, programmers, truck drivers, they just keep going. No Red Bull. No regrets. Just slightly unhinged optimism and an eerie amount of eye contact. Entire industries explode overnight. Coffee shops panic. Caffeine sales plummet. Starbucks releases a press statement that just says, "We're fine. Everything is fine. Please still come here for vibes." Meanwhile, parents everywhere experience something strange. Kids aren't tired, ever. They don't nap. They don't yawn. They just keep going. By hour 36, one father is found in a blanket fort muttering, "They've been talking about dinosaurs for 9 straight hours. I've learned fear." School systems panic. Do they open at 3 a.m.? Do they split into 4 shifts? One principal tries to teach nonstop and is later found curled under his desk whispering, "I just wanted a long weekend." Crime takes a weird turn. Burglars get caught more often, because now there's always someone awake. But cybercrime skyrockets because all the hackers are still sharp and well-rested. TV networks scramble to fill airtime. Suddenly there are game shows at 2:17 a.m. A cooking competition called Boil or Be Banished. A talk show where the host interviews pets. Ratings soar. But behind all the buzz and glow, something shifts. The novelty begins to fade. People start to feel overstimulated. The world never shuts up, never dims, never stops. And without sleep to press pause on the day, there's no pause at all. Weeks pass, then months, and the cracks begin to show. Time loses its meaning. There are no mornings or bedtimes, just an eternal loop of consciousness. A blur of meals and tasks and scrolling and noise. Mental health takes a nosedive. Without sleep, your brain doesn't get to sort memories, regulate emotions, or clear out the mental garbage that builds up during the day. That garbage? It's still piling up. Stress climbs, focus wobbles. People start forgetting things they just did. One man accidentally celebrates his birthday 3 times in 1 week and genuinely believes he's 43, 44, and 39 simultaneously. Social interactions become weird. Arguments escalate faster. Emotions run hotter. Friendships fracture over things like someone breathing too loudly or using the word moist in casual conversation. The arts suffer. No dreams means no dreamers. Writers hit creative blocks. Musicians recycle old tunes. Poetry becomes suspiciously all about spreadsheets and taxes. And something else is missing too. Something quiet but crucial. Solitude. In a world that never sleeps, no one disappears. There's always a ping, a text, a meeting, a responsibility. Even introverts, once the reigning champions of hiding, are now forced to face a world where disappearing is no longer possible. Nature doesn't escape the madness either. Endless lights disrupt wildlife. Birds forget when to migrate. Sea turtles are born at 2 a.m. and immediately start doing taxes. Pollution climbs. Without nighttime power downs, cities burn more energy than ever before. Climate change accelerates like a stressed-out Uber driver on a 1-star rating. Then comes the great burnout. Humans aren't made to go forever. Even without feeling tired, the body still needs rhythm. Cycles, rest, repair. Without it, immune systems falter. Aches become chronic. Hair falls out in stylish, patchy patterns. One woman knits a scarf from hers and sells it as avant-garde grief. Eventually, society adjusts, but not for the better. People take artificial mind breaks, drugs, VR, dream rooms, tech-induced hallucinations just to feel like they're resting. There are nap cults now. Yes, nap cults. Underground communities that simulate sleep. They wear pajamas, lie motionless in dark rooms, whisper lullabies to each other in secrecy. And suddenly, sleep, once dismissed as laziness, becomes the world's most precious myth. Fun fact, your brain literally shrinks a little bit to help flush waste. Now imagine none of that ever happens. You might feel fine because the sleepy signals are gone, but inside, your neurons are throwing furniture around and screaming, "We are not okay." Scientists who study sleep deprivation have seen wild things. Hallucinations, paranoia, memory loss. One poor guy in a study forgot how to spell his own name after day 3. Even plants rest, they have circadian rhythms too. If your houseplant gets more rest than you, maybe it's time to reevaluate. In fact, every living thing on Earth, from jellyfish to bacteria, has some sort of rest cycle. Why? Because biology is obsessed with balance. Take that away, and the system doesn't just get weird, it unravels. Okay, let's remix this nightmare. What if it didn't happen overnight? What if humans gradually evolved out of needing sleep? Well, it might have worked better. Sort of like how whales sleep one half of their brain at a time. Yes, that's real. We might have developed a slow drip recharge mode. Half of your brain sleeps while the other handles meetings and snack breaks. Society could have adapted with better rhythms, more breaks, meditation pods, emotional therapy squirrels, who knows? What if we could turn sleep on and off like a switch? Imagine, you finish your work, hit the nap mode button, and boom, 8 hours of rest in 2 minutes. Dream optional. Elon Musk would 1000% try to monetize this with a subscription service called SleepX. But here's a twist. What if we never needed sleep, but we still dreamed? Would dreams become a black market experience? A digital drug? A $99 headset that simulates nightmares for emotional depth? Without natural dreaming, would humanity lose creativity? Empathy? The ability to wake up crying because your dog turned into a bus and forgot your birthday? Maybe dreaming is the cost of being human. And maybe that cost is worth paying, even if it comes with drool. We live in a world that worships hustle and glorifies no sleep. But maybe rest isn't a weakness. Maybe it's the glue that holds our humanness together. Sleep is when the body heals, when the brain reflects, when your soul gets to wander through weird, wonderful stories you didn't even write. Take that away, and the world doesn't just get more time. It loses the magic that happens when everything else stops. So next time you think about skipping sleep to get ahead, just remember, even your Wi-Fi router needs a reboot. Now go hug your pillow. It misses you, and it's the only one that knows all your weird dreams and still loves you anyway. What if we could breathe underwater? Not with a tank strapped to your back or one of those awkward snorkels that fills with water the second you laugh. No, I mean really breathe. Like a fish. Like Aquaman, but without the six-pack. Sounds like science fiction, right? But imagine this. You wake up one morning, walk into your bathroom, splash some water on your face, and accidentally inhale through your nose. You freeze, eyes wide, heart pounding, but wait. You're fine. In fact, you feel better than ever. Energized. Refreshed. Like your lungs just sipped a smoothie made of ocean mist. And then you hear it, a scream from the neighbor's house. Martha's in the toilet. And she's breathing. No one knows how. No one knows why. But suddenly, every human on Earth can breathe underwater. No instructions. No fine print. No warning. Just gills online. So, what happens next? Let's dive in. It starts with confusion, chaos, and a lot of very wet socks. People everywhere are falling into bathtubs, fountains, puddles, and staying there. At first, they think they're drowning. There's flailing, splashing, dramatic gasps. One guy in New Jersey sues his jacuzzi. But then silence. And people aren't dying. They're adapting. In downtown Tokyo, a commuter misses his train, stumbles into a koi pond, and decides to stay. An hour later, he's teaching a Zoom meeting from 3 feet below the surface, surrounded by curious goldfish. In Florida, a retirement community organizes the first synchronized underwater bingo. Can I get the B7? Blub blub. Kids in Brazil cannonball into the Amazon, yelling, "I'm a mermaid," before realizing that, technically, they're not wrong. Within hours, beaches are flooded, not with water, but with people rushing into the sea. Lifeguards try to intervene, but by lunchtime, they're all bobbing calmly below the surface, sipping kelp tea and questioning their life choices. Social media loses its collective mind. Hashtags like #GillTalk, #UnderwaterSelfie, and #Snorkels are over party trend worldwide. A viral video shows a toddler blowing bubbles in a puddle, then giggling, "Mommy, my face can drink now." And the weirdest part? Everyone just accepts it. Sure, science can't explain it yet. Some blame aliens. Others say it's evolution on fast forward. One conspiracy group claims it's the government's way of lowering housing costs by forcing us into the sea. But nobody's complaining. Because once you've floated face down in a lake for 10 peaceful minutes without dying, your priorities change. You start to think, maybe the ocean was never the enemy. Maybe it was home, and we just hadn't unlocked the front door. Alright, so now that everyone can breathe underwater, what actually happens? First off, chaos. But the fun kind. Picture this. The very next morning, the streets are empty. Because everyone's in the nearest body of water. Rivers, lakes, swimming pools, even toilet bowls. Well, let's not talk about this. People try to go about their usual routines but underwater. Imagine your morning jog. Now a slow-motion dolphin dance. Cars? Forget it. Traffic jams turn into underwater congestion as people swim their way to work, bumping into each other like drunken otters. The fish? Confused. Like, hey, these two-legged floaters just invaded my turf, and they smell like pizza. Humans are instantly a little slower. Water resistance is no joke. So sports? Well, tennis becomes a splashy disaster, and basketball courts flood with soggy sneakers. But hey, underwater chess becomes all the rage. Strategy? Check, no running required. Lungs adapted overnight, but bodies did not. People discover their new weaknesses quickly. Lifting the grocery bag feels like wrestling a small whale. Jumping out of a pool? Impossible. Gravity underwater is a whole different beast. Eating lunch underwater? Messy, sticky, but surprisingly fun if you like soggy sandwiches. Hospitals fill up with people trying to figure out how to sneeze underwater. Spoiler, it's weird, loud, and mostly ends with a mouthful of bubbles. Governments scramble to keep order. Lifeguards everywhere get promoted to aquatic safety ambassadors. Schools launch how to swim to class programs. And Navy recruiters? Suddenly, their numbers skyrocket. Who doesn't want to be the coolest person in school now? Meanwhile, the ocean starts to look a lot like a crowded subway during rush hour. Sharks aren't thrilled. Can we get some personal space, please? They seem to say. Dolphins start selling underwater real estate, prime coral reef locations, anyone? And let's not forget the economy. Scuba gear companies go bankrupt overnight. Pool filter sales plummet. Because, seriously, why clean the pool if you live in it now? Instead, waterproof gadgets flood the market. Waterproof phones, waterproof laptops, waterproof everything. Because apparently, dry is so last century. Fast forward a few months, and humanity is no longer just a land species. We're aquatic too. The world looks completely different. Coastal cities expand, but downwards. Skyscrapers start growing underwater, with coral balconies and kelp gardens. Architects experiment with bubble rooms, where you can live in a dry, air-filled bubble while the ocean crashes around you. Luxury apartments come with views of passing schools of fish. The tourism industry explodes. Want to snorkel with real sharks without a cage? Now you can. Some people regret that. Food culture changes dramatically. Land plants? Yesterday's news. Kelp salads, algae smoothies, seaweed burgers dominate menus worldwide. Crab cakes? Well, you might think twice when the crab is your new neighbor. Fashion? Hydrodynamic suits, obviously. And forget shoes. Flippers are the new black. Politics get weird. Countries fight for control of underwater territory. Whoever owns the coral reefs owns the power. The Atlantic Ocean Union forms, and underwater embassies pop up faster than you can say scuba diplomacy. Scientists are busy trying to map the ocean floor now that it's ours. We find lost shipwrecks, strange glowing creatures, and ancient underwater cities. Atlantis might finally be real, or at least the inspiration for a Netflix series. Nature reacts too. Some species thrive with the new human presence. Curious octopuses start playing with people, dolphins become social media stars. Others? Not so much. Overfishing becomes a real problem since humans can now hunt underwater all the time. Coral reefs get trampled, and pollution spreads faster because our waste now goes straight into our own breathing space. Culturally, humans evolve, literally. After a few generations, people start developing webbed fingers, more efficient lungs, maybe even subtle gill-like structures. Languages evolve too, picking up bubble-like sounds and clicks. Underwater concerts? The next big thing. And the biggest change is the way we think about the world. We're no longer landlubbers but amphibious adventurers. Borders blur between sea and land. The ocean stops being something distant and scary and becomes a second home. The ocean, once a vast unknown, is now our backyard playground, messy, chaotic, and endlessly fascinating. So, how could this possibly work? Let's get one thing straight. In the real world, humans breathing underwater is like trying to suck soup through a brick wall. It's just not gonna happen. Here's why. Water does have oxygen in it, just not much. Compared to air, it's stingy. Air contains about 21% oxygen, while water has roughly 0.001%. That's like trying to feed a buffet crowd with a single chicken nugget. Fish solve this problem using gills, ultra-thin structures with massive surface area. They use something called countercurrent exchange, which is just a fancy way of saying, I'm gonna squeeze every last drop of oxygen from this wet nonsense. If we suddenly gained gills, we'd need blood vessels right near the surface of our skin. Some kind of filtering membrane to keep the nasty stuff out. Muscles to constantly move water over our gills, since water is heavy and doesn't flow easily on its own. Seriously, try pushing a bowl of water through another bowl of water. It's like arguing with soup. But breathing and talking? Whole different story. Fish don't need small talk. We do. So either humans stop talking, or we evolve some sort of bubble speak. Imagine text messages, but with bubbles. Hey, I just saw your ex, blub blub blub, equals unreadable and awkward, like usual. Could science make it happen? Actually, yes. Sort of. Artificial gills have been in development for years. Think tiny machines that extract dissolved oxygen from water. Great in theory. In practice? They're basically just wet vacuum cleaners that overheat and explode. Gene editing might one day let us borrow some fishy features. In fact, some animals already breathe through their skin. Frogs, salamanders, and weirdly, the hairy frogfish. It's as gross as it sounds. Liquid breathing is real. Scientists have made mice survive in oxygen-rich liquids. One day, maybe us too, if you're cool with drowning in a giant Capri Sun. Oh, and fun fact? Whales can hold their breath for over 90 minutes. Meanwhile, we get dizzy after holding it long enough to find Wi-Fi. So yeah, science says, not impossible. Just super weird. Okay, let's change the rules for fun. What if it happens slowly, over generations? At first, just a few people. Babies born with strange flaps behind their ears. Scientists call them aquagens. Bullies call them gilligans. The rest of the world stares in awe or horror as a new generation of half-human, half-fish kids takes over Olympic swimming by age 6. By the time they're teenagers, they're commuting to school via canal. Land kids are left watching from the shore with jealousy and maybe slightly moldy sneakers. Soon humans split into two tribes, the land-born and the sea-born. And guess what? The sea-born start throwing underwater parties, bioluminescent raves, DJ octopus spinning bubble beats. You're not invited unless you can breathe the vibe. What if it was a technology? Enter aquapods, tiny, implantable gill devices available for just $79,999.99 plus tax. Of course, only the rich get them first. Influencers post underwater selfies with dolphins. Billionaires buy ocean property. The rest of us? Still stuck in traffic, on land. A class divide forms. Those who breathe the sea, and those who watch it on YouTube. Then someone hacks the tech. Suddenly, people start losing their gill abilities during dives. YouTubers gasping for air mid-vlog. Chaos lawsuits. A Netflix docuseries titled, Breathe Easy, The Guild and the Guilty. What if we adapted completely? Humans start to change. Eyes evolve to see in murky water. Skin becomes sleek and rubbery. Hair disappears. We stop shaving because we stop having hair. Speech becomes sonar. Language turns to pulses, clicks, and bubble codes. Eventually, you don't even remember what dry land feels like. History books start with, once upon a time, we lived above the water. Weird, right? Sometimes the most invisible things are holding everything together. Air, gravity, dryness. We take them for granted until they're gone or until they change. The moment we gain something impossible, we lose a little of what made us. We become something new, something wetter, something with prunier fingers. So the next time you stand by the ocean and feel the waves tickle your toes, remember this. Maybe the sea was never trying to keep us out. Maybe it was just waiting for us to come home. And if that ever happens, you better learn to hold your breath or grow some gills. What if gravity suddenly doubled overnight? You wake up and realize something feels off. You try to sit up, but your blanket feels like it's made of wet cement. And your legs? Anchored to the bed like you've been bolted down. You finally manage to swing a foot to the floor, and your knees scream like you just ran 3 marathons back-to-back in steel boots. You stumble toward the bathroom, grabbing onto the walls for dear life, and then your chair snaps under its own weight. The mirror on the wall crashes to the floor like gravity just got a promotion and is flexing on everyone. Outside, people are panicking. Not from fire. Not from war. From weight. Something happened. Something big. Gravity, the thing you've never thought twice about, just doubled overnight. No warning. No cosmic email. Just bam, welcome to Earth 2.0, heavy mode. So, what happens now? Let's start with you, the average, unsuspecting Earthling. Yesterday, you weighed 160 pounds. Today, 320. That's right. You didn't gain weight. The planet did. Trying to stand up feels like pushing a car with your thighs. Walking? A slow-motion leg press that makes you sweat bullets just getting to the kitchen. Jogging? Forget it. Running? Your knees just filed a restraining order. Your heart now has to work twice as hard to pump blood up to your brain. Every step is a full-body workout. Going up the stairs? Feels like hiking Everest while wearing a couch. People start collapsing from exhaustion. Elderly folks and those with health conditions? In serious danger within hours. Hospitals are overwhelmed, not with injuries, but with bodies that just can't handle the new rules of physics. Your internal organs? They're not fans of this upgrade. Your lungs are struggling to inflate against the pressure. Your spine is compressing like an accordion at a polka festival. Your stomach's like, hey, what if we don't digest breakfast today? And those with metal pins, screws, or prosthetics, now dealing with screws trying to work their way through bone like impatient passengers looking for an exit. Even your face changes. Gravity pulls harder on skin, so wrinkles deepen instantly. Them jowls drop. Eyelids sag. Congratulations, you just aged 20 years in your sleep. And then there's the little humiliations. Toilets shatter under pressure. Mattresses flatten like pancakes. Public transit becomes a human pile of groans and sweat. Your smartwatch tells you, please lie down and never get up again. Suddenly, every task is a mission. Tying your shoes is now an Olympic sport. Carrying groceries? Impossible without a forklift. And when someone drops their phone, it stays down. No one's risking a slipped disc to save a TikTok draft. This is no longer a world of the fast and the fit. This is a world where every step is survival. And we've only been awake for 10 minutes. Now that humans are dragging themselves around like they've been hit with an invisible anvil, what about everything we've built? Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. Let's start with your home. You know that squeaky floorboard in the hallway? Yeah, it's not squeaking anymore. It now snapped. Your walls are under stress like they just found out they have to babysit a gorilla. Support beams groan like your knees when you try to stand after sitting too long. Your roof? Bowing inward like it's trying to high-five the floor. And why? You asked. Because buildings are designed with very specific weight tolerances. They don't account for, suddenly the world got heavier. Skyscrapers? Those modern marvels of glass and steel now look like Jenga towers in a wind tunnel. Foundations start cracking. Windows burst. Elevators, the ones held up by cables? Well, they're grounded now. Permanently. Bridges? Absolutely not. Suspension cables that once held strong now scream under the doubled load like overworked guitar strings. If you're on a bridge when gravity changes, time to start swimming, assuming water still lets you float. We'll get to that. Stadiums, parking garages, office towers. They're all built with the assumption that gravity behaves. It no longer does. So things start collapsing, slowly in some cases, instantly in others. Even your bed, your safe haven, it creaks ominously as the frame warps. Some collapse entirely, turning sleeping into emergency chiropractor visit. Vehicles? Your car now weighs twice as much. Good luck with gas mileage. Your tires look like pancakes and your shocks are basically in therapy. Planes? They're grounded. Permanently. A 737 isn't leaving the runway unless you give it wings made of dark matter and dreams. Escalators stop. Elevators fail. And staircases? Let's just say your quads are about to have their villain origin story. Welcome to the era of gravitational gentrification, where all buildings are now fixer-uppers and the most valuable real estate is still standing. Humans are struggling, buildings are surrendering. But what about nature? Let's talk animals. Cats, known for graceful leaps and effortless landings, are now walking like tiny, furious grandmas with back pain. Dogs don't fetch. They roll over and say, "You go get it." Birds? Grounded. The moment gravity doubled, every bird in midair performed the saddest cartoon drop you've ever seen. Hawks, pigeons, hummingbirds, all pancaked into trees and roofs like feathered footballs. Flight isn't just hard now. It's impossible. Their wings simply can't generate enough lift for this new reality. And then there's the big animals. Elephants? Knees buckle. They might survive the initial shift, but over time, their own body weight becomes a death sentence. Giraffes? Neck snaps waiting to happen. Even horses, majestic, powerful runners, are now wheezing lawn ornaments. Only the little guys seem fine. Insects, with their tiny mass and exoskeletons, are basically chilling. Ants are still carrying leaves like it's just another Tuesday. Spiders are like, "This doesn't concern me." Roaches? Thriving obviously, as always. But plants are not okay. Trees, especially tall ones, are breaking like breadsticks. Trunks can't handle the new pull. Branches snap, root systems struggle to anchor them, and the entire forest starts collapsing like a crowd of fainting goats. Photosynthesis slows because leaves droop. Plants conserve energy. Some wither from internal stress. And crops? Farms full of corn and wheat now look like a battlefield of wilted flags. Agriculture is in trouble and fast. Water? Still works, but barely. Surface tension stronger now, so a simple splash is a workout. Fish get crushed deeper down where pressure was already intense. Whales can't breach. Dolphins? Just sad, soggy sausages now. Ecosystems begin to unravel like a poorly sewn costume at Comic-Con. No more bees flying. No more birds migrating. Predator-prey dynamics go haywire. Everything that depended on mobility, balance, or vertical structures. Screwed. And don't even get me started on the squirrels. Okay, let's pause for a second and ask the big question. Where the heck did all this extra gravity come from? Gravity doesn't just double like your Netflix subscription price. Something massive had to change. And we mean literally massive. Let's science this up. Gravity is caused by mass warping spacetime. Imagine spacetime as a big trampoline. Earth is the bowling ball in the middle. Now, to double gravity, we either made the Earth twice as massive, or spacetime got drunk and started acting out. Maybe a rogue black hole passed by and supercharged Earth's pull. Maybe a dense dark matter cloud engulfed the planet like cosmic peanut butter. Or maybe, hear me out, some overzealous intern at the Large Hadron Collider hit the wrong switch labeled "Do not press absolute gravity mode." But back on Earth, we're now heavier, denser, and angrier. Because it turns out, Earth doesn't like surprises either. All that extra pressure? It's pressing down on tectonic plates like a sumo wrestler sitting on a house of cards. Fault lines are cracking. Earthquakes erupt with 10 times the fury. Volcanoes? Let's just say magma is very motivated now. Tides? Oh, the moon is still doing its thing, but now gravity's tug-of-war is getting nasty. Oceans are being yanked, not gently pulled. We're talking coastlines reshaped. Massive flooding. Tsunami parties with no RSVP. And let's not forget Earth is now squishing under its own weight. Our planet, previously a bit of a chubby sphere with a nice equatorial bulge, starts to flatten slightly. That means sea levels get weird, tectonic activity spikes, and the whole planet starts having a midlife gravitational crisis. And the atmosphere? It's now thinner near sea level because molecules are being pulled downward. Less oxygen, more gas compression, higher pressure. Basically, every breath feels like you're sucking air through a straw wrapped in duct tape. So if the crushed forests, grounded birds, and screaming tectonic plates weren't enough, now your lungs are staging a protest. Gravity didn't just double. Reality did. But the real question is, can humans actually survive in a double gravity world? Short term? Absolutely not. Long term? Maybe, if we get real smart real fast. First, forget skyscrapers. Cities of the future would be wide, low, and flat, like pancakes with Wi-Fi. Think hobbit holes, but with smart lighting and reinforced everything. Concrete bunkers become luxury condos. Architects are now gods. Next, the exosuit revolution. We'd invent gravity-resistant gear, Iron Man suits for the masses. Schools issue them with backpacks. Cafes have charging ports for your knee motors. You want to go jogging? Strap in and hope for the best. Underground living becomes the new norm. Not because it's trendy, but because it's safe, pressure-stable, and you're less likely to be squashed by collapsing towers. Food production? Forget sprawling farms. Welcome to vertical hydroponics with reinforced scaffolding. Robots tend to crops because humans can't reach anymore. Chickens lay eggs flat on the ground. They gave up flying years ago. Evolution? If we somehow lasted generations, we'd start to change. Humans would get shorter, stockier, thicker-boned, with muscles like gorillas and necks like tree trunks. Olympic lifting becomes daily commuting. The phrase skipping leg day becomes a hate crime. Maybe kids born in this world grow up thinking this is normal. Maybe they look at ancient photos of people doing backflips and say, "Oh wow, Earth used to be weird." And then there's the psychological shift. A slower, heavier world. People move less. Talk slower. Energy becomes sacred. Culture evolves to value patience, planning, and practicality. No more hustle culture. No more rise and grind. Now it's lie down and contemplate the void. We might not like it, but we might adapt. Because if there's one thing humans are really good at, is not dying when everything says we should. So, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow weighing twice as much? Would you start lifting weights or lifting donuts? Would you fight back with science or lie back and let gravity win? Let me know in the comments. How would you survive in a double gravity world? And do you think humanity could actually pull it off? Because here's the thing. We never think about gravity. It's invisible. It's constant. It's just there. But sometimes, the things we never notice, they're the ones holding everything together. And when they change, so does everything else. What if your memories were accessible like files on a phone? Yep, every awkward moment, every childhood meltdown, every time you confidently said, Pacific, when you meant specific, all neatly sorted in folders. Cringe, romantic disasters, that time I fell in public. Just tap and relive. It sounds like a Black Mirror episode meets Google Drive, right? But imagine if, overnight, every human on Earth got access to their entire memory archive. Searchable, playable, editable. No more arguing about who said what during a fight. No more lying about remembering your anniversary. No more, wait, how do I know that guy? Moments. Just swipe left and boom. Oh, right. 4th grade dodgeball enemy. Sounds convenient until it isn't. So let's crack open your brain's hard drive and see what would really happen. It starts at exactly 3:03 a.m. worldwide. The sky is clear. The world is asleep, mostly. Somewhere, someone's rage scrolling Twitter. Somewhere else, a cat is knocking a glass off a counter. Then, it hits, not a sound, not a tremor. Just a sudden, collective beep inside everyone's skull. People jolt awake, heart racing, because there's a soft glow in the room. But it's not from a phone, it's behind their eyes. A translucent screen floats in front of them. No wires. No buttons. Just a perfectly labeled interface with categories like childhood memories, trauma unresolved, weird dreams that felt real, that thing you did in 2009 that still haunts you. Everyone, from toddlers to grandparents, suddenly sees it. Their memory dashboard. Fully indexed. Fully navigable. Every smell, sound, and thought they've ever had, now replayable in 4K with surround sound. In New York, a woman relives her first kiss, only to discover it was sloppier than she remembered. In Tokyo, a man replays an old conversation and realizes he was, in fact, wrong, and his wife was right. In Paris, a retired chef watches himself invent his signature dish and wonders why he never wrote it down. Within hours, the world is in full-on memory mayhem. Hospitals are flooded, not with injuries, but with people who accidentally watched the moment they walked in on their parents. Therapists cancel appointments because their patients already watched the trauma in HD and started self-medicating with existential dread and ice cream. At coffee shops, people pause mid-sip, eyes wide, whispering, "Wait, I was the toxic one in that breakup. I never returned that library book in 2003. Oh no, I've been calling her the wrong name since we met." Employers start optional memory reviews before meetings. Let's all rewatch the pitch from last quarter and remember how Gary derailed it with an NFT joke. Students? They cheat the system instantly. Want to ace algebra? Just rewatch every math class you slept through at 2x speed. But plot twist, you now remember how boring it was in exquisite, soul-numbing detail. Meanwhile, everyone's favorite pastime becomes deep-diving their forgotten embarrassments. Rewatching childhood tantrums like it's a reality show. Zooming in on that one kid in middle school who was always cooler, only to discover they ate glue. Rewatching breakups and yelling at their past self like it's a horror movie. No, don't text him again. You're worth more than this. And then, of course, comes the memory flexing. Influencers now post actual memories online. Come with me as I relive my exact thoughts during Coachella 2018. Some dude uploads his Gym Gains 2015 to 2020 montage like it's a Marvel origin story. And parents? Oh, they weaponize this. You think I'm exaggerating? Watch this memory of you smearing peanut butter on the TV. I have receipts now. But darker stuff surfaces too. Politicians get caught revisiting shady deals. Couples break up after realizing they both edited their memories of the same argument, and neither of them actually remembered who started it. Even funerals change. Mourners no longer share stories. They stream memories, live, on a projector. With commentary. Here's Uncle Rick trying to parallel park in 1997. A classic. The result? In just 48 hours, truth becomes undeniable. Regret becomes bingeable. And reality, the one in your head, becomes public property. 1 year later, the world is different. Better? Worse? Definitely weirder. Memory editing becomes big business. Need to delete your first time because it was a hot mess? There's an app for that. Want to make your high school prom feel like a movie? Just insert slow motion and a Coldplay soundtrack. The line between real and curated memories blurs until people forget what actually happened and what they wanted to remember. New mental health disorders emerge. Rewatch loop syndrome. People stuck rewatching their happiest moments on loop, too scared to live new ones. Memory FOMO. The anxiety that everyone else's memories seem cooler than yours. Thought lag. That awkward delay after every conversation where people pause to check their brain playback and fact-check you. You did say you were fine. Replaying now. Yep. Timestamp 217. You liar. Education transforms. Schools stop teaching history, they stream it. Want to understand the French Revolution? Watch it from 10 different people's perspectives, complete with subtitles and pop-up trivia. But kids also start skipping painful lessons. They delete moments of failure, of rejection, of boredom, and in doing so, they forget how to grow. Relationships enter a new era. Dating apps now include memory preview. Before you swipe right, you can sample a person's last 5 heartbreaks. Arguments devolve into memory battles. You said you loved me. I said I liked you. Roll the footage. Meanwhile, couples schedule memory sync dates to rewatch their favorite moments together with optional director's commentary. And worst of all, memory piracy. Hackers sell black market memories. Want to know what it's like to win an Olympic medal? Feel a skydiving thrill? Experience Beyoncé's halftime show from her POV? You can buy it. Or worse, steal it. Soon, entire black markets emerge for synthetic memories, AI-generated dreams that feel so real, people begin choosing them over their actual pasts. The most terrifying development? The collective cloud. A shared space where people can upload memories publicly. History becomes one massive, searchable database. Privacy dies a flamboyant, dramatic death. Some protest. Some go full digital monk and live offline, refusing to access or edit any memories. They're called forgetters. They wear analog watches, listen to vinyl, and treasure fuzzy recollections like sacred scrolls. But the rest of the world? They move on, uploading, editing, reliving, until the past becomes more addictive than the present. And slowly, quietly, people start to ask, if you can rewatch your life, why bother living it again? Okay, but can we actually access memories like files on a phone? Sort of. Your brain is basically the most overworked, underpaid librarian in the universe. Every moment you experience, it files it away somewhere between your "I need to remember this forever" shelf and your "where did I put my keys" abyss. Memories live in a network of neurons using electrochemical signals like tiny text messages made of lightning and spit. But they're not stored in one neat folder. They're scattered like puzzle pieces across your brain. One part holds the emotions, another the visuals, another the smell of that grilled cheese from 1998. To actually access them like digital files, you'd need a brain-computer interface. Something like Elon Musk's Neuralink, but less sci-fi promise and more "please don't brick my personality." Scientists have already mapped out some basic thoughts using fMRI and AI, like reconstructing what someone saw based on their brainwaves. Creepy? Yes. Also yes. But to replay personal, emotional memories in HD, on demand, with rewind and fast forward, that would take next-level neurotechnology. A system that could decode the electrical patterns of billions of neurons and stitch them into a seamless sensory experience. It's like trying to build a Netflix for thoughts, with every episode stored in jelly, electricity, and tears. And here's the kicker. Memories aren't recordings. They're reconstructions. Every time you remember something, your brain is repainting the picture from scratch. So your nostalgic memory of your childhood dog being a majestic golden retriever might actually be an average mutt who once stole your sandwich and peed on your Lego Death Star. Did you know? Memory isn't even exclusive to humans. Octopuses have complex memories. Bees can remember faces. Your brain deletes stuff on purpose. It's called synaptic pruning. Basically, Marie Kondoing your memories. Some people have a condition called highly superior autobiographical memory. They remember every single day of their lives in vivid detail. Sounds cool until you realize they can't forget anything. Ever. Even that time they tripped in front of their crush in 2004. In short, science is getting closer to memory playback. But you might not like everything it plays. Sometimes, the things we forget are just as important as the things we remember. They protect us. They help us heal. They let us move on. So the next time you're lying awake at 3 a.m., cringing at something you said in 2011, remember this. You don't need to replay everything. You're not a hard drive. You're a human, messy, magical, forgetful on purpose. And maybe that's a good thing, because memories aren't just files. They're stories. And stories aren't meant to be downloaded, they're meant to be lived. What if life is actually a simulation and you're just now realizing it? Imagine this. You're brushing your teeth, scrolling through memes, and bam, you notice your reflection blink, but you didn't. The mirror you has a lag spike. Your heart skips. The lights flicker. Your cat is walking sideways like a corrupted Skyrim NPC. You blink again. The sky outside is loading like a Windows XP desktop background. Suddenly, a message flashes across every screen on the planet. Simulation unlocked. User access granted. Wait, what? You're telling me all of life, from your awkward middle school phase to that time you cried during a car commercial, was just rendered? Sounds like sci-fi, right? But let's say it's not. Let's say this is the moment you finally see the Matrix for what it is. No blue pill, no Morpheus, no dramatic trench coat. Just horrifying, hilarious truth. What happens next? It starts at 7:42 a.m. on a random Tuesday. A grandma in Ohio tries to microwave soup, but instead, the microwave speaks Latin and summons a geometry error. A Starbucks barista in Tokyo pours coffee, but the liquid freezes midair like it hit an invisible wall, and then calmly floats back into the cup. A gamer in Brazil notices every NPC in his online game stops. They all turn and stare at him. Then, globally, reality hiccups. The clouds stop moving. Birds freeze mid-flight. The wind loops. You hear the same gust over and over, like nature forgot to hit shuffle. And phones, oh, the phones. They all display the same message. Reality update complete. Welcome, conscious entity #7, 843, 999, 184. Every person on Earth feels a buzz in the back of their skull, like a new software was just installed in their brain. And suddenly, people can see the code. You look at your hand, and there's a debug menu. Skin is on. Blood flow, stable. Existential crisis, pending. People scream. People laugh. A toddler presses their belly button and turns green for 6 seconds. The world turns into the loading screen of a cosmic video game. And the weirdest part? Everyone remembers everything, but also realizes none of it may have been real. Cue collective freakout. And that's just minute one. First things first, society breaks. Not like, oh no, the Wi-Fi's out, but more like, we just found out gravity is an optional setting. Within hours, the stock market collapses, not from economic instability, but because traders start trying to hack their bank accounts using cheat codes from Grand Theft Auto. At least 700,000 people attempt to jump off rooftops, not in despair, but because they assume they'll just respawn. Spoiler, they don't. Turns out the simulation still has physics, and bones, sadly, are not optional DLC. Governments scramble to maintain order. The UN calls an emergency meeting, but half the delegates show up wearing wizard robes, claiming they've unlocked console commands. One guy speaks only in binary. No one knows what he's saying, but weirdly, everyone agrees with him. Religious leaders around the world go into meltdown mode. Some claim their god is the head developer. Others say we've been hacked by cosmic trolls. Meanwhile, a new cult forms within the day, worshipping an anonymous modder known only as user_42069. They believe he controls the weather and their love lives. In tech hubs like Silicon Valley, nerds throw massive parties. Years of conspiracy theories are suddenly vindicated. Elon Musk tweets, "Told you." Then logs off forever and is last seen trying to merge with the refrigerator. Meanwhile, everyday people discover terrifying new features. You can open a settings menu in your vision, but it's all written in a language that looks like IKEA instructions crossed with crop circles. Some people start glitching, legs clipping through stairs, head spinning 360 degrees like an overexcited owl. Babies are born with firmware update alerts. And let's not forget the popcorn-worthy drama of exposed memory logs. That time you swore your friend betrayed you in 10th grade? Turns out it was a corrupted cutscene. Awkward. Months pass. And life? It's unrecognizable. The biggest shift? Reality becomes optional. Once people accept that life is simulated, they start messing with it. Digital black markets emerge, selling unauthorized reality mods. Want to walk on water? $19.99. Want wings? That's an NFT now. Yes, the metaverse has officially invaded the meatverse. Society's split into 3 major factions. The rebooters, people who want to unplug and start fresh. believing a full system reset will bring them to a better life. These folks mostly live in the mountains and eat simulated berries. The dev worshippers, a global religion built around appeasing the unknown coders. They pray in C++. Their sacred text is the source code of Windows 98. The hacktivists are rebels who use glitches to fight authority. They live in floating towns made of looped terrain tiles and speak in error messages. Meanwhile, traditional governments collapse. Why obey traffic laws when you can literally fly to work using a bootleg physics mod? Entire cities become sandbox games. People build castles out of floating cows. Dogs can talk now. Most of them are rude. Schools change too. Instead of learning algebra, kids are taught how to not fall into the void. Basic debug skills. How to recognize an NPC having an emotional breakdown. And over time, humanity gets way too comfortable with it. Morality becomes optional. Privacy? Deleted. People start re-editing their childhood memories for better aesthetics. One guy replaces his ex with a pizza. He says the pizza was more emotionally available. The scariest part? Some people just vanish. No death. No scream. Just a cursor hovers over them and hits delete. Nobody knows who's controlling it. Maybe it's the original devs. Maybe it's you. Let's take a deep breath. This is where it gets weirdly real. The idea that we're living in a simulation isn't just sci-fi nonsense cooked up in your college roommate's dorm at 3 a.m. It's called the simulation hypothesis, and it has some serious believers. One of them? Nick Bostrom, a real-life philosopher who basically said, either humans go extinct before we can make advanced simulations, or we're already inside one. Wait, what? Here's the logic, and try not to scream. If civilizations survive long enough, they'll develop technology capable of simulating reality in insane detail. And if they do, they'll probably make lots of simulations. Like a multiverse buffet of sims with better graphics. So statistically, the odds that we're the real base reality? Super low. Like needle in a haystack low. Now toss in quantum mechanics. A branch of science that already acts like it's running on spaghetti code. Particles don't exist in a single place until observed. Time can stretch, reverse, or loop depending on gravity. Matter can be both a particle and a wave. Schrödinger's vibe check. It's like the universe is a badly optimized video game that somehow runs perfectly unless you look too closely. Like zooming into an old JPEG. And did you know scientists have actually started testing this theory? Yep, they've run computer models trying to see if reality could be pixelated, meaning space and time could have minimum measurable units. Like the atoms of reality. And in 2012, some physicists proposed that cosmic rays might glitch if we're in a simulation. Spoiler, we haven't found the glitch yet. But also, how would we know? It's kind of like trying to find the edge of Grand Theft Auto. Sure, it looks like a mountain, but try to walk through it, and suddenly you're under the map watching deer fall from the sky. The universe works suspiciously well. Too well. Like a perfectly balanced sandbox game optimized for one thing. That is, us. So either it's divine genius, or someone coded it that way. Okay, but what if we didn't all suddenly wake up one day and go, whoa, I'm just digital tofu in some alien teenager's science project? What if the simulation theory unfolded in slow motion? Instead of an overnight existential meltdown, weirdness creeps in quietly. At first, it's just little things. Birds freezing midair for a second like someone hit pause. Streetlights blinking in Morse code that no one programmed. A vending machine that dispenses Cheetos before you put money in, and somehow knows your favorite flavor. People would laugh it off. Huh, must be Mercury retrograde. But then someone uploads a TikTok of a sunset looping. The same sunset, on repeat, with the same cloud shaped like a raccoon holding a burrito. Soon, it's all over the news. Breaking, time may be repeating. Scientists unsure if we're in a glitch or just Tuesday. Then comes the second theory. Maybe it's not a simulation. Maybe we're just part of an update, a patch. Reality 2.0. Bug fixes and performance enhancements. Less disease, better dental coverage. Maybe even new emotions like blissgust or hypepathy. Now let's flip the whole thing. What if we could control the simulation? What if humanity figured out how to access the source code? At first, governments would fight over it. Then billionaires would monetize it. And by week 2, you're customizing your skybox, switching gravity on and off like it's a light dimmer, and paying $3.99 to unlock Ultra Happiness mode for your dog. But here's the plot twist no one expects. Even with full control, even with infinite powers, humans might get bored. Because maybe the one thing that makes reality exciting is not knowing how it ends. The mystery, the chaos, the randomness, the bugs. That's what makes it real to us. And in the end, maybe we choose to forget all over again, reboot, wipe the memory, and go back in, because not knowing it's a game might be the only way to truly play. Sometimes, the most invisible things are holding everything together. Our trust in reality, our belief in rules we never wrote, and the illusion that everything makes sense. Take that away, and the world becomes unrecognizable. But maybe, just maybe, that's what makes life so weirdly beautiful. So next time you feel a bit off or life seems too strange to be real, ask yourself, are you the player? Or just another NPC trying to wake up? What if you were the last human on Earth? No text, no tweets, no one to argue with in the comments section. Just you, alone, on a planet built for 8 billion, and not a soul in sight. What would actually happen? It might just blow your mind. Or at least make you appreciate how much society has been holding your sanity together with duct tape and espresso. It starts like any other Tuesday. You hit snooze for the 4th time, stagger to the kitchen in a hoodie that hasn't seen a wash since dinosaurs roamed, and pour yourself a cup of coffee that's 70% caffeine and 30% regret. But something's off. You glance at your phone. No messages. Okay, not unusual. Maybe you're just unpopular. You open social media. Error loading feed. You refresh, still nothing. That's when the first weird feeling hits. Not dread, but a kind of silence. A thick, syrupy quiet. You step outside. No cars, no barking dogs. No neighbors yelling at their Wi-Fi routers. The air is still, like the earth is holding its breath. You walk down the street, doors left open, sprinklers hissing quietly in empty yards, TVs flickering with no one watching. A bike lies on its side in the middle of the road. Groceries sit abandoned in a shopping cart. A plane is grounded on the runway, doors wide open. No crew. No passengers. TL. Hello. Your voice bounces back at you like the world just shrugged. You get in a car and drive through town. Not a single soul. The radio plays static. You flip through channels, one by one, silence or automated loops. The news station shows an empty studio, camera still rolling, chairs still warm. And that's when it really hits. You're not in a dream. You're not in a prank show. You are absolutely, entirely, catastrophically alone. You scream. No reply. You laugh. No witnesses. You pick up a shopping cart and hurl it across the parking lot. Because you can. In that moment, the wind the only thing left to answer you. The truth settles in like a cold, wet blanket. Everyone is gone. And you're the last human on Earth. So, what happens when 8 billion people disappear overnight and you're left holding the planet like it's your roommate's pet goldfish? Well, first, confusion. Then panic. Then the kind of manic freedom that leads to you riding a rascal scooter through a mall while wearing a Viking helmet and eating a stolen tub of cookie dough ice cream. But very quickly, reality taps you on the shoulder with a crowbar. About food? The power grid still hums for a bit. Nuclear and hydro plants are built to run autonomously for weeks. But once no one is there to push buttons, flip switches, or scream, "We're gonna lose it," lights start going out. Supermarkets begin to smell like armpits filled with expired shrimp. Freezers thaw. Milk turns faster than your hope. Water? City water systems start failing as pumps lose power. You quickly learn that flushing a toilet becomes an emotional event. You become a connoisseur of bottled water, Fiji, Evian, and that shady off-brand that just says water in Comic Sans. Animals? At first, house pets are confused. Cats, Thrilled. Dogs? Heartbroken. Zoos and farms become chaotic fast. But don't worry, some animals do break out and start their own weird society. Somewhere, an orangutan is driving a golf cart. You feel it in your bones. Silence? It's deafening. No hum of cities. No background chatter. Just birds, wind, and your own thoughts, which, as it turns out, are very loud and very weird without people around to distract you. You raid stores for survival gear and impulsively loot a GameStop, even though there's no Wi-Fi and no one to play with. Old habits die hard. You camp out in a mansion. You use a baseball bat to break into a candy store. You cry in IKEA because the fake rooms feel too real. The world is yours, and you realize freedom without people is just loneliness with better real estate. Days turn to weeks. Weeks stretch into months. The planet starts reclaiming itself. Nature goes full jungle mode. Without humans mowing, paving, or yelling at squirrels, grass cracks through concrete, vines crawl over billboards, and deer start showing up in Starbucks. Cities turn into greenhouses. Skyscrapers get mossy beards. It's like planet Earth is dressing up for a post-human prom. Buildings decay. Within a year, your dream mansion becomes a leaky nightmare. No maintenance means mold, rust, and raccoons claiming your bedroom like it's their Airbnb. Wooden houses collapse. Glass shatters. Metal warps. Your neighborhood starts looking like the set of a zombie movie, minus the zombies. Just your inner monologue and a goose that really wants to fight you. Animals adapt. Domesticated pets become wild. Packs of golden retrievers roam like polite gangsters. Cows wander highways mooing in existential confusion. Rats become kings of abandoned cities. Your only friends are pigeons now, and they judge you harshly. Mental health? Yikes. Without human interaction, your brain starts doing things. You talk to mannequins. You assign names to chairs. One day, you get into a heated argument with a lamppost and lose. Solitude begins chewing on your sanity like it's a granola bar. Knowledge fades. Without others to teach, learn, or record, technology, medicine, and science slowly slip away. You have access to all of humanity's knowledge, but no one to explain quantum mechanics or why your DIY haircut now makes you look like a pineapple. Legacy vanishes. Art fades. Statues crumble. The internet dies. Human culture, books, music, memes, TikToks of raccoons stealing hot dogs, all gone. No one left to remember who Beyoncé was or why Shrek 2 was culturally significant. Eventually, you stand on a hill, beard like a wizard, holding a piece of toast you had to make with a blowtorch, watching the sunset, knowing you are the last story on Earth. And no one's left to hear it. So, how would the world really change without humans? Let's crack open the textbook, and then throw it out the window and explain it like we're sitting around a campfire with coffee and conspiracy theories. Ecosystems would thrive, mostly. With humans gone, pollution production halts instantly. No more cars, no more factories, no more Karen pouring bleach into rivers because she read something on Facebook. Carbon emissions? Plummet. Air quality? Crisp enough to taste. Oceans? Start healing like they've just been dumped by a toxic ex. Within just a few years, cities become feral parks. Chernobyl is the perfect real-world example. After humans left, wildlife bounced back with a vengeance. Wolves, boars, and radioactive frogs now party in the exclusion zone. Without us, nature doesn't just recover, it throws a rave. Power grids collapse fast. Most modern infrastructure is automated, but it still needs babysitting. Once nuclear plants go unattended, they initiate automatic safe shutdowns. Fossil fuel plants stop. Solar panels and wind turbines keep going until dust, weather, or pigeons ruin everything. Did you know? The New York subway would flood within 36 hours without pumping systems. Within a few years, buildings would fall apart from moisture, mold, and freeze-thaw cycles. Cities would become ruins, beautiful, ivy-covered ruins. Satellites would orbit and fall. Without ground crews, satellites stop being maintained. Some fall to Earth, some drift off. Eventually, the night sky becomes a dangerous fireworks show. You'll be outside with your squirrel army, watching a piece of Elon Musk's dream crash into the forest. Loneliness and neurology. Social interaction isn't just fun, it's literally required. Without conversation, your brain begins pruning social pathways. Memory dulls. Decision-making gets weirder. You could go from Shakespeare to caveman with a ukulele in under a decade. Turns out your brain is like a puppy. It needs company, or it starts chewing on its own shoes. Sometimes, we forget how much the world depends on us, and how much we depend on each other. Take humans out of the equation, and the planet survives. But it gets awfully quiet. So next time you're stuck in traffic, annoyed at a noisy neighbor, or standing in line for coffee behind someone ordering a half-sweet oat milk foam dragon fruit sprinkle latte with extra sass, just remember, you're not alone. And that's a good thing. Because life isn't meant to be lived solo, it's meant to be shared, screamed, sung, and slightly chaotic. And even though we humans are messy, loud, and occasionally set things on fire, at least we make the world feel alive. What if your shadow had its own personality? Sounds like the plot of a B-grade horror film or a Pixar short gone rogue, right? But imagine it, you're just walking down the street, sipping your overpriced oat milk latte, when you notice something odd. Your shadow isn't quite synced up. At first, you chalk it up to being tired, maybe even dehydrated. But then it waves, and you didn't wave. It shrugs. You didn't shrug. It sits down like it's on a coffee break from being your personal silhouette. Congratulations. Your shadow has become sentient. And it's probably got opinions about everything you do. Let's break down what would actually happen, and trust me, it's going to get weird. The sun is bright, birds are singing, and somewhere in the suburbs, someone is already angrily mowing their lawn. You roll out of bed, half-dressed and bleary-eyed, stumbling to the bathroom mirror. And that's when you see it. You're brushing your teeth. But your shadow? It's flossing. Not just out of sync, doing its own hygiene routine. You freeze. Toothbrush halfway out of your mouth. Your shadow smirks, and holds up a tiny imaginary scorecard. 3 out of 10. Try again. All over the world, chaos follows. In Paris, a mime faints after his shadow breaks into song and dance mid-performance. In New York, a guy is caught arguing with his shadow on the subway. The shadow wins. In Tokyo, someone's shadow jumps into a vending machine and refuses to come out until it gets pocky. It's cinematic. Cinematic in the way the world is when it realizes everything has changed and no one read the fine print. People scream. Some pray. Others try to soothe the sun. Meanwhile, shadows start acting out decades of suppressed energy. They moonwalk down hallways, photobomb wedding pictures, and start TikTok trends no human can keep up with. One particularly dramatic shadow throws a tantrum in Times Square and gets signed by a talent agent within the hour. And you? You're standing there in your kitchen, coffee spilling on the floor, watching your shadow attempt yoga. Badly, but confidently. The moment has arrived. The light bends. And your dark side is no longer just a metaphor, it's got attitude. At first, it's hilarious. People post videos of their shadows doing jazz hands at funerals, interpretive dance during corporate meetings, and spontaneous yoga in courtrooms. Shadow memes flood the internet. One viral video shows a toddler whose shadow refuses to nap and starts doing push-ups instead. But then the questions begin. Can your shadow commit a crime? Is it your fault if it slaps your boss? Can it testify against you? Lawyers are in a frenzy. Judges are confused. One courtroom case is interrupted when both the defendant's and plaintiff's shadows start arm wrestling on the wall behind them. In schools, chaos reigns. Children are told to keep your shadows to yourself. But that's hard when Jimmy's shadow keeps making balloon animals during algebra. Meanwhile, shadows start developing distinct personalities. Some are shy and clingy. Others are dramatic, sarcastic, or kind of flirty. Some refuse to follow their humans entirely. Imagine trying to go to work while your shadow is in the corner of the bedroom reading romance novels and refusing to get up. Or worse, it leaves without you to go hang out with the neighbor's shadow. A betrayal darker than the shadow itself. Governments panic. Shadow-free zones are declared. Flashlight-based surveillance becomes a thing. Amazon starts selling shadow discipline collars. Totally ineffective but wildly profitable. And in the medical world? Therapists are overwhelmed. Shadow therapy becomes a booming field. Hi, I'm Dr. Patel, and I specialize in passive-aggressive shadows. Oh, and there's the small matter of physical accidents. Car crashes, because shadows randomly wander into the street while drivers are distracted. People tripping over their own shadows. Yes, it's possible now. One poor guy gets banned from a buffet after his shadow keeps slapping shrimp off people's plates. All within the first week. Fast forward a few months, and the world has completely adapted, or at least pretended to. Society splits into two camps. People who get along with their shadows, Team Sync, and those whose shadows are full-on divas, Team Chaos. The workplace changes forever. Employers are required to hire both you and your shadow. Bring your whole self to work is now legally binding. Some shadows demand PTO. Others form unions. A few start side hustles, shadow-only consulting firms, interpretive dance troupes, or influencer accounts. Fashion evolves too. Shadow couture becomes a thing. Runways are redesigned with dual lighting, so shadows can strut too. There's even a reality show, Shadow Wars, where competitive shadows battle it out in everything from hide-and-seek to improv comedy. Dating gets tricky when your shadow doesn't vibe with your partners. I like you, but my shadow says you're emotionally unavailable. Breakups happen, not between people, but between shadows. Some shadows stay friends. Others become revenge shadows. Meanwhile, religions adapt. New spiritual movements emerge. The Order of the Twin Self. The Church of the Eternal Shade. One cult in Utah worships a shadow named Kevin who only communicates via interpretive dance. Politically, world leaders have to co-rule with their shadows. Presidential debates now include a second mic for the shadow. Some countries even elect shadow representatives. Others ban them altogether, leading to underground shadow resistance movements. And of course, the environment reacts. As shadows become independent, they occasionally forget to return to their human bodies. Trees cast rebellious shadows that wander off to other forests. Clouds get confused. Sunlight becomes unpredictable. Astronomers report lunar shadows doing the Macarena. In the deepest, darkest caves, a strange phenomenon begins. Shadow colonies. No humans, just shadows. Living, arguing, dancing in the dark. And you? You're now living with a sarcastic, emotionally dramatic shadow who gives unsolicited advice every morning. Don't wear those pants. I'm begging you. And honestly, you wouldn't trade it for anything. Well, maybe for a quieter shadow. Or one that didn't keep signing you up for Zumba. Let's talk science. Or whatever's closest to science when your shadow starts having mood swings. In the normal, boring universe, shadows are just the absence of light. They don't think. They don't move on their own. They certainly don't critique your outfit or steal your fries. But for this to happen, something monumental must have changed in how photons and consciousness interact. Yeah, we're going there. Let's say light, specifically how it behaves when it's blocked, suddenly starts creating quantum imprints. Imagine if every time light hits you, the blocked area, your shadow, retains a sort of residual template of you. But now that residual isn't just a shape. It's thinking. It's learning. It's TikTok dancing. Maybe there's a new form of photonic entanglement, where your shadow becomes a sort of quantum copy, but with freedom. Basically, a black 2D twin coded from light and sass. Now you might say, that makes no sense. And you'd be correct. But neither does the fact that birds can see magnetic fields or that sea cucumbers can vomit their intestines when scared. So, let's not get too smug about what's possible. And here's a did you know moment for your dinner parties. Did you know your brain is technically always casting a neural shadow? It's the leftover signal your neurons leave as they fire, a real echo of thought. So, who's to say physical shadows couldn't someday act like psychological ones? Also, Earth isn't the only place where weird light tricks happen. On the moon, shadows are pitch black. You lose all depth. You can't even see the shadow of your own hand unless you bring a flashlight. Imagine that kind of emptiness suddenly winking back at you. So spooky. Long story short, the science doesn't make sense, but neither does string theory, and that got a Netflix documentary. Sometimes, the things that follow us the closest, the ones we ignore or take for granted, turn out to be the most revealing. Your shadow has always been there. Quiet, constant, loyal in a way most people never are. But if it did come to life, if it started speaking its mind, dancing, dreaming, disagreeing, maybe the scariest thing wouldn't be the chaos. It'd be the realization that your shadow knows you better than you do. So next time you catch your shadow at your feet, maybe give it a little nod. You never know what it might be thinking or plotting. What if mythical creatures suddenly became real? Not in a cute, animated Disney way. I'm talking real. Like you wake up, open your curtains, and there's a fire-breathing dragon doing a barrel roll over your neighborhood while a gang of garden gnomes is mugging your Amazon delivery guy. Sounds like fantasy? Absolutely. Sounds like chaos? Oh, you have no idea. But let's actually think about it. What would really happen if, in an instant, every creature we've ever dreamed up, from noble unicorns to caffeine-addicted gremlins, just poofed into existence? Let's break it down. But hold on to your enchanted hats. This one gets wild. It starts quietly. No warning. No sirens. Not even a cryptic tweet from Elon Musk. Just a very confused farmer in rural Scotland watching his sheep levitate. Seconds later, his entire pasture explodes in a whomp of glitter and wings as a full-grown Pegasus, muscles glistening and mane flowing like a shampoo commercial, lands directly on his tractor. The tractor, to its credit, tries to hold together and fails dramatically. Meanwhile, over in Tokyo, a high school student looks up from his vending machine ramen to see a long, serpentine figure slithering through the clouds. Not a plane, not a blimp, a dragon. It winks at him, then shoots a fireball into the sky that explodes into fireworks, spelling the word yo. In New York, a woman walking her dog stops mid-step as the shadows on the wall start moving without their sources. Then, bam, a minotaur crashes through a subway grate, roaring, clutching a Metro card in one hand and a hot pretzel in the other. Social media loses its collective mind. Hashtag drag and drop. Hashtag Loch Ness is loose. Hashtag Medusa at them all. People don't know whether to scream, selfie, or start throwing breadcrumbs to that suspiciously large goose that's starting to look like a griffin. The world doesn't even pause. It jerks into a new reality. And reality? It's got claws, fangs, hooves, horns, and a lot of attitude. And somewhere deep in the Amazon, a tribe that's always known this day would come, just calmly starts making tea. Because when myths become real, the question isn't, how do we stop it? It's, who's going to clean up after the centaurs? Ready for the chaos that follows? Let's dive into the immediate effects. Within the first 24 hours, the world becomes a live-action Dungeons & Dragons campaign, except no one has a character sheet and the dungeon master just rage quit. Airports? Shut down. Why fly in a plane when griffins are offering Uber rides for a chunk of raw meat and a 5-star rating? One guy tries to tip his griffin in Bitcoin. He's never heard from again. Zoos? Empty. The animals either panicked or formed a support group, because when a manticore takes your enclosure, suddenly being a lion isn't so cool anymore. The penguins are especially bitter. Governments scramble. The UN holds an emergency meeting only to have it hijacked by a well-dressed vampire offering eternal foreign policy. Canada negotiates peace with a herd of unicorns by offering maple syrup. France, of course, immediately claims ownership of all dragons as cultural heritage. The economy? Picture the stock market, but every graph is now a roller coaster. Dragon insurance becomes a real thing. Tesla announces the Cyber Chimera. Amazon introduces 24-hour hydroproof shipping. Meanwhile, humans? We're freaking out. Some people barricade themselves in basements, clutching holy water and garlic like it's an apocalyptic charcuterie board. Others are riding centaurs into town squares like it's Black Friday at ye old Best Buy. Magic is everywhere. Spells replace apps. Some dude in Kansas accidentally casts Summon Goblin while trying to order pizza, and now the goblin works at the pizzeria. Oh, and every zoo, museum, and fantasy novel is suddenly being treated like an official survival guide. Because the old rules? Gone. Now the world runs on myths, chaos, and a healthy fear of sirens who sing Adele in perfect pitch. Fast forward 5 years and life is weird, but functional, kind of. Cities have adapted. Tokyo is rebuilt vertically, with dragon landing pads and anti-phoenix sprinkler systems. London bans trolls on bridges. New York? Still New York, just with more wands and slightly more curses. Hey, I'm casting here. Schools introduce new subjects like basic unicorn grooming, dragonflight safety, and defense against the dark reality that is gremlins in your Wi-Fi. The job market? Exploded like a basilisk in a mirror shop. There's now a booming industry around enchanted pest control, potion brewing, and magical influencer marketing. Yes, there's a centaur with 12 million followers who does hair tutorials. But society has shifted. Politics now involves literal shapeshifters. Not metaphorical ones, actual werewolves debating tax policy. Imagine C-SPAN, but with howling. Religions adapt. Some embrace the creatures as divine proof, others go full scorched earth theology. One guy starts a cult worshipping a mermaid who can beatbox. Meanwhile, ecosystems everywhere are flipping tables. Forests are growing faster under the influence of dryads. Oceans are deeper, darker, and weirder thanks to sea serpents. And birds? Well, harpies have unionized. Good luck with that. On a personal level, humanity learns humility. Nothing resets your ego like losing a debate to a centaur professor who teaches ancient literature and deadlifts 600 pounds. And for every magical marvel, there's also danger. People vanish into portals, fairies steal left shoes, and 1 in 3 smart homes are now possessed by sarcastic ghosts. But here's the kicker, we kind of get used to it. Because when the mythical becomes mundane, reality just expands. And somewhere between the chaos and the comedy, humanity survives, with a little extra sparkle, a lot more weird, and an official government department called the Bureau of Werewolf Affairs. And honestly, it's still better than 2020. Now let's try, against all reason and common sense, to science this magical mess. First off, let's talk biology. If a griffin exists, half lion, half eagle, how do its internal organs work? Does it roar or screech? Or both at the same time like a feathered smoker with asthma? The muscle mass needed to lift a lion into the air with eagle wings would require either a violation of physics or a whole lot of protein powder. Scientists call this selective disbelief, or in simpler terms, yeah, we give up. Then there's the issue of dragons. Massive creatures, often described breathing fire, real fire, from their mouths. That would require an internal combustion system. Think, built-in napalm tank and a biological spark plug. In other words, dragons are basically flying lizards with flamethrowers and an attitude problem. Paleontologists are losing sleep. Magic? We'd probably classify it as a new form of energy. Let's call it mythothermal energy, which obeys its own laws of physics. In this universe, emotions might generate power. Rage could light a city block. Love could power Wi-Fi. Finally, a reason for those Hallmark movies. Anxiety might short-circuit an entire grid. So basically, Gen Z is the most powerful demographic. The brain science? Oh boy, imagine your hippocampus suddenly being able to actually teleport memories, or your dreams becoming a legally binding event. Neurologists would need potions just to keep up. MRI machines would start seeing fairy wings and third eyes. And therapists? Now treating people for chronic centaur envy and traumatic goblin encounters at Trader Joe's. And remember ecosystems? Unicorn poop might be radioactive. Werewolf saliva could carry a new strain of lycanthropy, fun at parties, bad for TSA. Dragons nesting in volcanoes could change tectonic behavior. Earthquakes might now come with roars. In short, science would have to either level up or admit it's now a minor character in a fantasy novel. But let's hit pause for a second. What if we got it wrong? What if unicorns weren't elegant horse mermaids of the forest, but territorial, slightly narcissistic creatures that attack anything that sparkles? What if dragons were actually cold-blooded philosophers who only breathe fire when you ask stupid questions? So, like, can you breathe fire? Maybe mermaids aren't glamorous sea sirens, but sarcastic ocean dwellers constantly complaining about human pollution and stealing sunscreen off boats. And centaurs? Let's just say trying to get a centaur to sit in a movie theater seat is the least of your problems. Ever tried arguing with someone who's half horse and fully pretentious? And what if they didn't appear all at once, but evolved slowly over decades? At first, we'd spot one or two creatures, mistaken for viral marketing. But then, zoos start applying for phoenix permits, pet stores sell baby griffin food, and your neighbor's backyard fairy circle becomes active. Eventually, society wouldn't just adapt, it would normalize it. Kids would be late to school because a troll demanded a riddle at the underpass. The phrase, dragon attack insurance, becomes standard on all home policies. And dating apps? Now with a checkbox for not into vampires. Sometimes the most unbelievable things are just waiting for belief to let them in. Maybe myths aren't stories we invented, maybe they're memories we've forgotten. Maybe the world wants to be wilder, stranger, and a little more magical. So the next time you dismiss something as just fantasy or scoff at the idea of a dragon hiding in your attic, remember this: reality is only one chapter of the story. And who knows, your cat might actually be a shapeshifter. Which explains a lot, honestly. What if oxygen levels doubled instantly? Like something you'd hear in a high school science class, right before the substitute rolls in a TV and puts on Bill Nye the Science Guy. But buckle up, because if this ever actually happened, if the air you breathe suddenly got twice as loaded with that sweet, sweet O2, the world wouldn't just change. It would ignite. Literally. We're talking about trees turning into Roman candles, squirrels sprinting like they've downed 4 espressos. And your lungs? Oh, they'll feel like they've just leveled up in an RPG. So, what would really happen if Earth suddenly inhaled a double dose of oxygen? Let's break it down. It starts like a normal morning. The sun rises. Birds chirp. Somewhere, someone snoozes their alarm for the 3rd time. People are jogging, walking dogs, scrolling through emails on the toilet. The world is doing its thing. And then, without warning, the air shifts. It's subtle at first. You breathe in, and your lungs throw a party. Breathing feels amazing, like inhaling Minty Mountain air and Red Bull at the same time. The guy next to you on the train who always looks like he hasn't slept in a week? Suddenly he's sitting upright, eyes wide, posture perfect. That barista who moves at the speed of molasses? She's now making 5 lattes at once like she's auditioning for the next Avengers movie. But it's not just people. The air smells too clean, too sharp, like lightning just struck a eucalyptus tree. Small fires, candles, grills, bonfires, flare up with unnatural intensity. A kid lights a sparkler and accidentally creates a minor explosion that blows their backyard trampoline onto the roof. Then the birds start freaking out. They're flying faster, higher, like someone pressed the fast-forward button. Dogs are zooming around the park in full sprint, not even tired. And the bugs? Oh, they're getting bigger. Not in a cartoonish Godzilla ant way, but noticeably chunkier, like they just finished a CrossFit cycle and meal prepped 6 months worth of gains. People start panicking, not because of explosions yet, but because the air feels different. It's like the planet just snorted an energy drink. Everything is louder, crisper, and somehow vibrating with possibility, until someone tries to light a cigarette, and boom, just a puff, a flick. And suddenly, a car alarm goes off from the sheer force of the mini flame ball that erupts. That's when everyone collectively realizes something's seriously off. This isn't just a good air day. This is an oxygen overdose. And Earth? She's just getting started. Within minutes of the oxygen doubling, the world becomes a real-life chemistry experiment that nobody signed up for. Let's start with fire, the most dramatic diva of the natural world. Campfires? Now miniature infernos. Birthday candles? Napalm spritzers. Fireworks? Forget it. They're now air-to-ground missiles. Even toasters start launching flaming bread into the air like medieval catapults. Suddenly, firefighters are the new Avengers. Meanwhile, humans start feeling off. At first, it's great. Like pre-workout kicked in and everyone's inner athlete woke up. Joggers are doing parkour. Elderly folks are breakdancing. Karen at accounting just ran up 12 flights of stairs for fun. But then, the biological glitches begin. Oxygen toxicity isn't just a sci-fi buzzword. It's real. Your lungs are overwhelmed. Blood vessels start to constrict. Some people experience tunnel vision. Divers actually call this the martini effect because of how loopy it makes you. And that's underwater. Now imagine it happening inline at Starbucks. Babies start crying nonstop. Dogs are barking like they're trying to warn us about ghosts. And then boom, lightning strikes a pine forest. It doesn't just catch fire, it explodes. Wildfires begin breaking out in random places like the earth is trying to deep clean itself. And that's just day one. Fast forward a few months, and Earth has evolved, or at least gone through a major personality change. First off, the wildlife has gone absolutely bonkers. Insects thrive in high oxygen. So now we're dealing with dragonflies the size of pigeons, and mosquitoes that look like they do deadlifts. Spiders? Don't even ask. Arachnophobia is now a survival instinct. Plants? Loving it. Jungle growth is out of control. Your lawn is now a rainforest by Thursday. Trees grow faster and thicker, absorbing even more carbon dioxide, which is great. But now every city looks like it's being reclaimed by nature like an abandoned Last of Us set. Humans? We're struggling. Prolonged exposure to hyperoxia, fancy word for too much O2, leads to lung damage, eye problems, and nervous system issues. Hospitals are overrun, and there's now a black market for vintage air, sealed bottles of pre-chaos atmosphere selling for hundreds on eBay. Technology is also glitching out. Anything that involves combustion, engines, turbines, generators, is unstable. Planes are grounded. Gas stations are hazards. The world's leading cause of house fires? Microwaving popcorn. And geopolitically? Oh boy, nations are arguing over forest fires, oxygen-neutral zones, and who gets to control the clean air reservoirs. Diplomacy is difficult when everyone's twitchy and buzzed like they just inhaled pure espresso. The planet becomes greener, sure, but also hotter. Fires release carbon, climate spirals, and storms become wilder thanks to heat-fueled weather systems. Hurricanes now have names like Greg and Oh God No. It's a beautiful, terrifying, forest-covered, flame-prone, oxygen-drunk apocalypse. Kinda like Burning Man meets Planet Earth, narrated by David Attenborough after 2 Red Bulls. So, why does doubling oxygen turn Earth into an over-caffeinated jungle on fire? Let's break it down. Oxygen is a highly reactive gas. It loves to burn, like genuinely can't help itself. Fire needs 3 things: fuel, heat, and oxygen. More oxygen? Bigger fire. It's why hyperbaric chambers are so carefully monitored, and why your backyard barbecue now sounds like a rocket launch. Now, a fun little did you know moment. During the Carboniferous period, about 300 million years ago, Earth's atmosphere had 35% oxygen, compared to today's 21%. Insects back then? Absolute units. We're talking giant millipedes the size of crocodiles, dragonflies with 2-foot wingspans, and centipedes that would probably qualify for Olympic hurdles. That's because higher oxygen levels allow bugs, who breathe through their skin, to grow much, much larger. You think mosquitoes are annoying now? Imagine them dragging off pets like gremlins. Now, let's talk humans. We're not built for hyperoxia. Our lungs, brains, and cells are adapted to 21% oxygen. Double that, and we're basically breathing rocket fuel. Too much O2 can cause oxidative stress, meaning your body rusts from the inside out. Your eyes get blurry, your lungs inflamed, and your neurons start firing like they're playing whack-a-mole. Even oxygen at sea level pressure, if concentrated, becomes toxic after a while. Divers deal with this when breathing pure oxygen at depths. It can cause seizures. So imagine everyone having the world's worst panic attack, but with tree growth and firestorms. Also, combustion engines get really weird. They're tuned for the oxygen/fuel mix in normal air. Too much O2? Engines run too hot, misfire, or explode. Your car doesn't just break, it throws a tantrum. In short, doubling the oxygen sounds cool until Earth becomes a Michael Bay movie with more trees. Now let's twist the scenario. What if the oxygen doubled slowly over, say, 100 years? Well, we'd actually have a shot at adapting. Humans might evolve slightly larger lungs, or at least develop breathing techniques that limit intake, like Olympic swimmers, but all the time. Hospitals would design oxygen filters, cities would install air moderation systems like reverse humidifiers, and breathing exercises would become competitive sports. Fire safety would evolve too. We'd invent materials that are way more flame-resistant. Entire cities might move underground or into giant air-controlled domes, not because of climate change, but because the outside air is too spicy. Also, wildlife would adapt. Bugs would get a bit bigger, not Jurassic Park big, but, oh no, the fly is using my bathroom again big. Predators might evolve faster muscles. Athletes would break world records like they're popping bubble wrap. We'd still face forest fires, health risks, and tech changes, but we'd be able to build around it. Our cities would look like something out of a retro sci-fi film. Oxygen masks as fashion? You bet. Hyper-air cafes with carbon-mixed air options? Of course. Breathing would become the new gourmet dining. In this version, humanity doesn't burn, we upgrade. We spend so much time chasing the big things, new tech, faster cars, taller buildings, but sometimes the tiniest, most invisible parts of our world are the real MVPs. Oxygen isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It just exists, quietly keeping us alive without asking for applause. But double it, and suddenly, your backyard turns into a scene from Jumanji. So maybe the lesson here isn't more is better. Maybe it's this. The world isn't perfect because of extremes. It's perfect because of balance. And in that balance is the sweet, non-flammable breath of life. Take a moment today to inhale and thank the atmosphere for not trying to kill you yet. What if you could switch genders at will? No surgery, no pills, no long conversations with a slightly confused HR department. Just pop, new gender, same soul. You're brushing your teeth, look up in the mirror, and you've got a whole different jawline. Eyebrows sharper, shoulders narrower, or broader, or covered in glitter, depending on your style. Sounds like science fiction, right? But let's say this is real. And not just for you, but for everyone. A built-in biological switch, like blinking or burping, but with way more social implications. So what would actually happen if humans could change genders at will? Let's break it down. It starts on an ordinary Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday where the most exciting thing you expect is your Uber Eats order arriving on time. But no. Today, humanity got a firmware update, and nobody read the patch notes. At exactly 9:03 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, reality hiccups. All around the world, people stop mid-sentence, mid-step, mid-sip of iced coffee, and suddenly feel weird. Like their skeleton did a somersault inside their skin. There's a weird tingling behind the eyes. A chest flutter. A rearrangement of everything. In a New York subway, a bearded businessman sneezes, and when he opens his eyes, his beard is gone, his voice is higher, and his pants are fitting very differently. He looks down, looks up, then mutters, "Huh, well that's new." A high school in Tokyo erupts into pure chaos when half the student body changes mid-geometry exam. Screams, laughter, one student trying to turn it into a TikTok trend within 30 seconds. In Rome, a nun blinks twice and finds her robe suddenly feels snug in entirely new places. She stares at her reflection, crosses herself, and says, "Okay, Lord, plot twist accepted." Doctors panic. Parents faint. Fashion designers throw their scissors in the air yelling, "Finally, our time has come." And the mirror industry? Booming. People can't stop checking themselves out. But the real kicker? It's not a one-time thing. With a little concentration, like clenching the right mental muscle, you can switch back, or sideways, or somewhere in between. It's not just male or female now, it's a whole sliding scale of possibilities. And just like that, gender becomes a choice. Not a label, not a box, a button. And everyone's got one. Within hours, the world looks like it's been hit by a gender hurricane. The first real shockwave? Bathrooms. Humanity's eternal battlefield. Suddenly, nobody knows where to go. One brave soul walks confidently into a women's restroom, morphs mid-pee, and walks out shrugging like, honestly? Gender-neutral stalls were inevitable. Makeup counters become war zones of curiosity. One moment you're a 45-year-old dad just looking for your wife. The next, you're trying out glitter eyeliner and whispering, "Oh my God, I get it now." Gyms descend into glorious confusion. Trainers trying to coach a client through squats while their body shape morphs between reps. Okay, now adjust your weight. Now your center of gravity is different again. Dating apps? Oh no. Bumble servers catch fire. Tinder becomes an unpredictable casino of romantic roulette. Wait, you were a guy yesterday? Yes, and I still hate pineapple on pizza. Stay focused. But the weirdest bit? Everyone gets used to it incredibly fast. Because once the initial whiplash fades, people realize, this is kind of amazing. Fashion evolves instantly. The idea of men's and women's clothes evaporates in 24 hours. People start dressing for the mood they're in today, not the body they were born with. Language explodes. New pronouns, nicknames, pet names, bro, and queen start being used interchangeably, and somehow, it works. Meanwhile, the economy tries its best not to combust. Insurance companies, health apps, census data analysts, all sobbing quietly into their spreadsheets. And then a weird calm settles over society. A realization. We are all officially winging it. Together. 1 year later, and the world has transformed. Education systems overhaul biology classes. Gone are the days of, this is a boy and this is a girl. Now it's, this is what's possible. And here's a wheel chart. Spin it. Medical science explodes with discoveries. New organs, hybrid hormones, a whole spectrum of gender-fluid anatomical changes. Pharmaceutical companies release pills to stabilize shifts, enhance shifts, or, for the bold, randomize them. Cultural traditions adapt or get reinvented entirely. Weddings now include a gender shuffle segment where couples pick their vibe for the honeymoon. Gender reveal parties? What do you think? Now it's personality reveal picnics, where people gather and say, hey, I'm more confident now and also mildly allergic to shrimp. Here's some cake. Religions split into two camps. This is a divine test. This is definitely a divine upgrade. Sports leagues? Total chaos. New Olympic categories emerge. Most strategic switch mid-game. Fastest shift to sprint combo. And the beloved gender fusion wrestling. Politics? Complex, but for once, deeply entertaining. Debates begin with candidates announcing what form they've chosen today, followed by awkward compliments across the aisle. Senator, I may not agree with your policies, but that blouse is slaying. And the best part? The world starts shedding a lot of old baggage. Gender roles, expectations, double standards, they just don't stick anymore. You never know who someone's going to be next week or next hour. And slowly, society starts asking a better question than, what are you? Instead, who are you choosing to be right now? Okay, so how would any of this even be scientifically possible? Let's pretend, for fun and fiction, that your body came with a gender switch toggle like a game character loadout screen. At the heart of this miracle? Nanobiology. Imagine a swarm of intelligent, shape-shifting cells. Let's call them morphocytes, that can rewrite your biological expression on demand. Flip a mental switch, and they rearrange your hormones, redistribute muscle mass, swap reproductive anatomy like Lego blocks, and even change vocal pitch mid-sentence. It's like stem cells went to drama school and majored in improv. But wait, what about the brain? Studies already show that gender identity involves complex neural networks and hormone interactions. In this world, your neurological state adapts to syncing with your chosen form. Which means, yes, you could wake up feeling emotionally different, more attuned to a different perspective, more comfortable, more you. Your DNA remains the same, but your gene expression becomes modular. We're talking real-time epigenetic editing, like CRISPR but with a personality. 1 minute you're estrogen dominant, the next you're rocking testosterone-fueled confidence and biceps. All without needing a gym membership or a 3-hour TED Talk on hormone therapy. Oh, and fun fact, in real life, clownfish can actually switch genders. So can certain frogs, wrasses, and fungi. So technically, nature already beat us to it. Humans just took a while to catch up. Let's say this didn't happen overnight. Let's say gender switching evolved gradually, like puberty 2.0, but on purpose. In that world, people might unlock their switch in their late teens or after major emotional growth. Your first switch might be tied to a milestone, graduation, heartbreak, or finally understanding why people cry at Pixar movies. Imagine ceremonies where families gather for your first shift day. Balloons, cake, support groups. Someone yells, "He's now a she," and the DJ drops Beyoncé. Or, what if instead of flipping genders entirely, people could blend them? Not just switch between masculine and feminine, but mix and match traits like you're building a customizable smoothie. Today, I'm 40% feminine, 60% masculine, with a splash of androgynous cinnamon swirl. A new world of nuance opens up. Not 2 boxes, infinite sliders. And maybe, just maybe, the idea of being stuck as one thing forever would feel kinda outdated. Like flip phones, or dial-up internet, or salad without dressing. In the end, it's not just about gender. It's about fluidity, identity, the ability to evolve, on purpose and without shame. Because if we could literally change who we are at any moment, maybe we'd finally accept that everyone is already changing all the time, just in quieter ways. So the next time you catch yourself putting someone in a box, remember, they might walk out of it, spin it around, paint it hot pink, and strut away like they invented the runway. And honestly, good for them. What if the Earth stopped spinning for 10 seconds? Imagine this. You wake up on a perfectly normal morning, stretch, yawn, and glance at your clock. But wait, the second hand isn't moving. The coffee pot hasn't started brewing. The birds outside are suspiciously silent. You rub your eyes, thinking it's a weird dream, until you step outside and everything feels wrong. Like someone hit the planet's pause button. No spinning, no wobbling, just a frozen, still Earth staring back at you like, surprise, bet you didn't see this coming. Sounds like the setup for a sci-fi thriller, right? Except this time, it's real life, and the consequences? Well, let's just say they're out of this world, or rather, out of this planet spinning. Picture this. The moment the Earth stops spinning, clocks everywhere grind to a halt. Not just the ones on your phone, every single one, from the grand clock tower downtown to the wristwatch of that one guy who never takes it off. Time itself feels frozen. People mid-step, freeze in place, or worse, stumble as if caught on a runaway merry-go-round that's suddenly jerked to a stop. Cars skid sideways like they've hit an invisible wall. Birds, mid-flight, awkwardly hover or crash into trees. And the oceans? They don't just sit quietly. No, they start to roil and churn like an angry beast waking up from a long nap, giant waves slamming inland, swallowing beaches and cities like a toddler grabbing handfuls of sand. The sky looks different. The wind, once a gentle breeze, turns into a ferocious scream, ripping through streets at speeds no hurricane has ever dreamed of. And you stand there, blinking, wondering, what in the spinning cosmos just happened? What if the Earth really stopped spinning? What chaos would follow? What nightmare would unfold? Well, buckle up, because the story of a still Earth is not just wild imagination. It's a terrifying journey into physics, nature, and the fragile thread that keeps our planet alive. All right, let's slow down time for a second. Well, ironically, the Earth stopping means time might feel anything but slow. Here's the deal. Our planet is like that kid on a playground spinning around on a merry-go-round, except way faster. At the equator, Earth spins at a dizzying 1,670 kilometers per hour. That's about the speed of a supercharged sports car, but spread out over 40,000 kilometers of planet. Now imagine you're sitting on that spinning ball, but suddenly, bam, it stops dead. What happens? Well, here's where physics steps in and ruins the party. Everything on Earth has this thing called inertia. Fancy word for stuff wants to keep doing what it's doing. So when Earth stops, everything not nailed down, and yes, that means you, your coffee cup, and your pet goldfish, keeps moving at that 1,670 kilometers per hour speed. Your hair doesn't just mess up, it tries to fly off like it's in a shampoo commercial gone wrong. Buildings aren't going to hold you hostage. They might just crumble under the stress. And the atmosphere? Oh boy, the air keeps zooming around like it's on an eternal roller coaster, creating winds so violent that the term Category 5 hurricane sounds like a gentle breeze. Picture winds that make tornadoes look like mild spring gusts. A Category 1000 hurricane? Yes, we just made that up, tearing through everything. Trees uprooted, cars flipped like toys, hats. Forget it, hats become extinct. Now that your imagination's running wild, let's dive deeper into the chaos. Tsunamis that laugh at physics. Because the Earth stopped spinning, the oceans don't just sit politely. Their momentum sends massive walls of water crashing inland, swallowing entire coastlines like they're giant, angry sea monsters. Coastal cities become water parks nobody signed up for, except without the fun slides. People flung sideways. Ever been on a really fast amusement park ride and wanted to scream? Multiply that by 1,000. Depending on where you live, closer to the equator or poles, you'd be hurled sideways at deadly speeds. If you're near the equator, imagine being suddenly pushed off a bike going 1,670 kilometers per hour. Spoiler alert, you're not sticking the landing. Magnetic field meltdown. Earth's spin creates a magnetic field that shields us from cosmic radiation. Think of it as the planet's invisible force field. Stop the spin, and that shield flickers out like a dying flashlight. Suddenly, cosmic rays flood the atmosphere, which means more radiation zapping everything, including your DNA. Not exactly the vacation upgrade we want. Day and night get totally weird. Without rotation, a day stops being a quick 24-hour spin. Instead, one side bakes under the sun for 6 months straight, while the other freezes in total darkness. Plants freak out, animals don't know when to eat or sleep, and humans? Well, good luck explaining bedtime when it's still bright outside at midnight. Ecosystems collapse. With that messed up light cycle and radiation flooding in, entire ecosystems start falling apart. Crops fail, forests struggle, animals vanish. Our dinner tables? Let's just say they won't look the same anytime soon. Civilization forever changed. Without stable days, nights, and weather patterns, modern society would have to reinvent itself. Cities would be abandoned, governments scramble, and humanity would be forced underground or into bunkers, clinging to whatever tech and resources they can salvage. All right, let's drop some science bombs that'll blow your mind faster than the Earth's rotation, or the lack of it. First up, Earth's spin isn't just for show. It actually shapes our planet. Because it spins, Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's a bit of a squished pumpkin, bulging at the equator. This equatorial bulge is why your weight slightly changes if you stand at the poles versus the equator. Yes, you weigh a tiny bit less at the equator because of the spin's centrifugal force. So next time someone complains about their weight, tell them to move south. The spin also affects gravity, not in the pull you to the ground way, thanks, gravity, but by slightly reducing it at the equator thanks to that outward spin force. It's like Earth is saying, hey, chill out down here. In time, our clocks and calendars depend on that spin. Without it, the concept of a day would be totally messed up, rewriting how we measure time. From sunrise to sunset, breakfast to bedtime, Netflix binges to midnight snacks. Even climate relies on that spin. It drives wind patterns and ocean currents, mixing hot and cold, wet and dry, kind of like the planet's giant blender keeping things livable. Without it, weather gets stuck in extremes, either scorching deserts or frozen wastelands with no escape. But hey, let's get a little imaginative. What if the Earth stopped slowly? Instead of an instant stop, imagine a slow motion braking like a car pulling into a driveway. You might feel huge earthquakes, crazy weather shifts, and a few million headaches, but maybe not the apocalyptic disaster movie you'd expect. Life might scramble to adapt, but it wouldn't be total chaos overnight. Could we survive in bunkers? Well, underground shelters might protect us from the worst of radiation and wild weather, but surviving 6 months in darkness? That's a serious psychological test. Plus, without sunlight, plants don't grow, so food chains collapse. We'd be stocking up on canned beans like never before. What about other planets? Earth's not the only spinner in the solar system. Jupiter spins so fast, a day lasts about 10 hours. Talk about rushing through your morning routine. Venus, on the other hand, spins so slowly and backwards that a day is longer than a year. Imagine if Earth did that. Goodbye normal weekends. Spinning really is the universe's way of keeping planets lively. Slow it down or stop it, and things get weird fast. So here's the kicker. The Earth's spin is something we never notice, like the bass line in your favorite song. It's invisible, constant, and unyielding. Take it away, and the whole world changes. No more steady days, no more familiar nights, no more gentle winds or safe oceans. Just chaos, confusion, and a planet struggling to breathe. The spin of our planet is the invisible hand that keeps everything alive and moving, the cosmic DJ keeping the beat. So next time you feel the world's rush beneath your feet, remember, it's not just spinning, it's saving you.